Yes, yes, yes. We are back for another open court discussion in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co-host, Herb Lewis, the infamous, the Big Bad Wolf. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube tonight. Last Monday, we discussed the topic, have men stopped courting women? Hmm. Great conversation. Something that needs to be said and put out there. Have men stopped? No, it was no absolutes that not all men stop. Most of these subjects, in fact, all of these subjects, there's no absolutes. So for those, and that's one of my biggest irritants for people say, not all, not everybody. Most of these subjects, it don't fit into the category for everybody. So if that's your argument, go to sleep, roll over, and come with something else because that's a weak ass argument. Yeah, you can see I'm already started. But anyways, tonight, June 21st at 9 p.m., we have to break down this even further. Are modern men in their 40s and over suitable for marriage? That's pretty deep right there. Let me say that again. Are modern men in their 40s and over suitable for marriage? Some people may feel like, okay, I'm 40 or 50. There's no way in hell I'm getting married. But some people still may want that. So we're going to cover a lot of ground on different variables about that tonight. Basically dealing with financially, mentally, or physically, along with other factors such as being set in our own ways, expectations of sex, time commitment, the unemotional attachment, inexperience in dating. And when I say that, because sometimes, back in the days, people dated different. When you were younger, you dealt with people that you went to school with or in your neighborhood and stuff like that. But now it's so many other variables to it. Some people don't know how to date. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know how to end a date. Shit, some people don't know how to begin a date. So that causes strain when people don't have inexperience in that. Sexuality, being too damn picky. And finally, fears and more fears. So as you can see, we have a lot to damn talk about tonight. Please like and share this video. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. And again, for all the fellas out there, now that I'm live, happy belated Father's Day. I hope you all had a great day, did what you wanted to do, put the emphasis on it's your day, and I hope you were served well, not on paper plates. Good plates, kind of, whatever. And we know that's a whole discussion right there. Paper plates. It's too hot to cook. Who gonna help wash these dishes? And things like that. But I hope it was your day. And I hope you weren't dealing with somebody who still tried to get credit for Father's Day, even though you're present and you're doing what you need to do. So I want to give a shout out to all the fellas as far as that. Man, oh boy, this subject matter. Let me just tell you, I got Willie in the studio. I'm going to bring him in. This brought a lot of smoke. And I posted in the Counselor's Corner. And most of my content area, I start posting in the Counselor's Corner. So you barely ever see anything on my regular page. I might share a few things here and there, but most stuff comes from the Counselor's Corner. And a couple of the posts, one of the posts reached like 10,000 people. And I'll read that. Then a couple other ones, one is like at 3,000 and the other one. So to me, where some people like, oh, he don't get no likes and all that. No, I'm trying to reach out when you have, random people from all over trying to join the Counselor's Corner, which really grew probably in the last 3 or 4 months. We're almost at like 1,600 people, and before it was like hovering around 700, 800, but it's been growing really fast. So that's where it's at. But it reached 10,000 people. The comments wait, let me just say this. For all the ladies or the people who used to be on the panel and used to think, oh, this is coming from David and her, y'all need to read up. Oh, some of the stuff these guys were saying, I was like, wow. Wow. And Herb kept telling y'all, and I'm going to say Herb because he was the one who, he kept saying, it's a whole nother world out there where people think differently. And it's starting to come out. Things are being exposed. And the women didn't like what the guys were saying. Not at all. Not at all. As the women say when they try to think they got an upper hand with us, poor little tink tink. they didn't like it at all. But all right, I'm done. I'm done with that. We got some questions and a good format going on. So we're gonna have added. Gonna bring Willie in here. What's good, Anwar? Thanks for joining us. What's going on, Raheem? Raheem said, "Good. Women need to be uncomfortable." Oh, they're uncomfortable as
shit. It's about to get hot.
Yeah. So
they don't want to be in the kitchen so much anymore. But it don't matter because this heat about to spread through the house.
So, Herb, when people don't know how we create shows, and a lot of it is based on stuff that we read or we see. When you came up with this subject matter, what was your thoughts? What were you thinking at first when you came up with this subject matter? And I know we had stuff that parallel with it, but like I keep telling people, all this stuff runs together. Like there's no like, okay, it's this subject and then it goes away. All of this stuff has parallels and it builds off of one another. So that's where he is. So what were you thinking? What's going on, Willie, man?
Hey, fellas. Happy
Father's
Day and all that good stuff to all the fellas out there. And I hope you got it in before the ladies took it away. So let's keep it moving.
True indeed, man. First and foremost, let me reach out to the men that aren't fathers like myself. Hey, don't let nobody shame you into not being a father. That means you've done something correctly, or maybe you didn't do something correctly. It just happened to pan out in your favor. Take solace in the fact that you are not contributing to the delinquency of a minor, or you're not creating a family that you had no desire to partake in the procurement and the security of. I always tell people, I said, look, I'll reach the age that I am, and I don't have any kids, and most of that is by choice. I made a conscious decision at 30, not to engage in certain type of behaviors, that would have led to me having children. Now, with that being said, let's get back to the original question that David asked. This actually came as a result of what we were talking about last week, and being that our demographic falls in line with that age group, I figured, well, why not discuss why men over 40 seem to have difficulty, or may not have difficulty, they're just opting out of not being married. And as we can see from the post where David was discussing and commenting on, that there's a myriad of reasons. There's some that fall in line with the general consensus of most men in that demographic, and there are some that fall outside of the periphery. It's almost like a bell curve, either to the left of the bell curve or to the right. But generally, most men across ethnicities have the same concerns, when they're dealing with certain things, and it's like electricity. They always want to go the path of least resistance. And sometimes men will go down and, manosphere content creation has always been talking about this. Men will go down in looks and certain things to go up in cooperation. And what happens often is that a lot of women, men as well, but we're focusing on what men want. A lot of women, once they reach a certain age, they become set in what they want in their expectations. That's not wrong. That's just the reality of dating. Men understand it, and women seem to not want to come to grasp with that. They will say, well, what's wrong with having standards and expectations? Nothing. But that's not a one-way street. That door swings both ways. So if you have it, then by all rights, you can't expect men to not have them. And the point becomes that men have them, and they're so rigid that if they run into a woman who has some qualities, but then the other qualities on the other side don't balance, they'll say, you know what? I've done this well this far in my life. The life expectancy for the average man, I think, is like 68, 69 years old. Women, you still have another 10, 15 years on top of that, provided you're in good health to live. Most women don't want to be by themselves at no age in their life. Doesn't matter whether they have kids or they don't. Women aren't meant to be like that. Not to say that men are, but men deal with it a little bit better. And we see that coming, and we see that now that we're on the other side of COVID, how things are being affected in terms of the job market. So now we don't hear the I'm independent, I don't need no man, I have a job, because the job market has been crushed by the forced closings by government. And that's just not in the US, that's happening worldwide. We're going to see how things play out post-COVID. And David and I talked about this last year, that if you were a woman who had kids and you weren't married or whatever the case is, that you need to be working out some type of deal with the father of that children, so those children can be provided for, so you can actually downsize, so you can maintain your independence if that's what you want. Because a lot of women, just simply put, they still think that they're able to maintain, and the job market is just going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people, men included. But the reason why we talk about women is because most of them have control of the kids. And we already know the statistics about women being impoverished with children, not by themselves, but with children. So now that we're seeing this, we're starting to ask, well, what is the problem with men, and why don't men want to get married?
All right. Willie, what's good, man?
Man, I got to follow that.
No, I mean, you ain't got to follow actually that. But I know you had some.
Follow that.
I know you had some personal thoughts from following the post the last couple of days, that you had some concerns.
Well, I'm listening to you, and I agree with what Herb is saying. Definitely, especially, the main thing for me, like, I had started posting similar things about men and what their interests are and type of women they're interested in. Then they also talked about things that the type of women that men were interested in. The older women weren't willing to be flexible enough to even accommodate that, and felt that, take me as I am was often the response that I got on the post that I was posting. And so I was listening to what he was saying, and it's just like everything he said is like 100% correct. And for me, like I said, I look at your post, I look at the post that I made months ago and how people responded to it. And the women, they wouldn't address the post. They would attack men. They would, they would talk about anything except for what the post was about. So like, even with your post, you had people responding to stuff that had nothing to do with the post. They started attacking the man. I'm trying to think, it was on my post or was on your post. I saw something where this woman said, about older men dating younger women. Oh, they bald headed and they fat, and she's giving all this description about the man, and he wants a younger woman. And it had nothing to do with the fact that, okay, it doesn't matter what he looks like. If that's what he wants, how is it wrong or right? There's no wrong or right about it. We all have our own desires. We all have that ideal woman that we want. And a lot of times with an older woman, you'll find that, like you said, she might be a nice looking woman, or, you might enjoy the conversation with her. But when it really comes down to it, the flexibility of trying to meet each other's needs or standards or just, bonding is not there for a lot of them, because they've been hurt. They've been through abusive situations. They're focused on their kids, especially if they still have them in the household. So, I mean, there's like I said, there's no real wrong answer, but there's just so many different answers. There's so many situations. It depends on each woman. You can meet one woman and she's going through a whole different situation. You meet another woman, she's going through a whole different situation. They all got some kind of background. And because of that, they apply that situation of what they've been through and that longevity of life to any relationship they get involved in.
This is true. This is true. We do have Brolic T up in here, so it's gonna be nice to hear what's her thought on this subject matter. So we're gonna bring her in. I don't want to be rude and like we just gonna dominate the conversation. So Brolic T, how you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
We great. I'm
Good
great.
evening.
So, I've been reading the post in the Counselor's Corner, and listening to what you gentlemen have to say. And I find a lot of it amusing, some of it true, some of it, all in one's perspective, I guess, depending on what side of the table you're sitting on. It's funny because, when I think of a man in his 40s, all right, so from my perspective as a woman, there's nothing wrong with a man in his 40s wanting a younger woman because, by the time you're 40, most men, not all, some of y'all are financially stable. That's a good thing that you could bring to the table if you want to start a family. But that's like the extent of it, though. There's really not much more that you can offer a younger woman other than financial stability. And I say this because at 40, I don't see many 40-year-olds walking around with toddlers. And if they got a toddler, it was not planned. Or they had it because that's what their wife, the younger woman, wants. And they didn't want to deprive her of the ability to have a child because they're too goddamn old. But in all reality, that's not really what they wanted. And my mindset, if you didn't want kids, then you shouldn't have conceded on that because at the end of the day, that's not going to benefit her in the long run because when you're too tired to be bothered with this child that's running around because, it's going to be a minute before this kid gets to an age where they don't want to be bothered with you or have time for you. There are going to be nights where this child is sick and she can't be the only person that stays up with it. I don't see this 40-year-old man wanting to stay up in the middle of the night with this sick ass child. I don't see that happen too often. When you come home from work and you tired and this toddler wants to play with you, it's like, no, daddy's been at work all day. Where's your mother? So, you can shake your head, but I'm just telling you from the perspective of what I've seen in situations like that, this happens. And this may not be something that you guys talk about in reality, but it does happen. And I've seen it happen to younger women who thought, okay, I met this older guy and, he talks all this good stuff, let's get married, let's have a child. And that's and then reality sets in. Reality sets in because that game was good. And now it's time to pay piper. This kid is here. Y'all married. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm giving him everything that he wants. I'm keeping my body right. I'm sitting up here and I'm doing all the things that he expects of me. I'm keeping house. I'm cooking. I'm cleaning. I'm keeping my body right. Meanwhile, he's not doing the same. All he can bring to the table is finances. And at the end of the day, that's just not enough. But hindsight is 20/20, like they say. So that's my thought. There's nothing wrong with an older man wanting a younger woman. Hell, people in hell want ice water. That don't mean you always gonna get it. It's easy for somebody to say, oh, well, if a man doesn't look a certain way, who is a woman to bash him? Hell, y'all bash us all the time when we don't look a certain way, but we want something. So why? From my standpoint, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Don't bash a woman for how she looks and what she wants in a man. But then when we say something about your bald head, broke ass, got titties just as big as mine, walking around here talking about you want a dime piece with a 25-inch waist and all this. And hell, what your waist look like? 50, 48? And I'm supposed to be comfortable with that on my arm. I'm supposed to be comfortable with that on my arm. I'm doing everything that I need to do as a woman, being feminine, making sure I dress right, making sure I look right. But you don't even put an ounce into your appearance. But I'm supposed to look good for the both of us. Why? I can have somebody who's willing to do all of that. Why would I settle for somebody who doesn't put forth the effort? I'm supposed to put forth the effort and do all these things, but then you can't. And there goes that double standard that men and women have. A man can do whatever he wants, and a woman is just supposed to accept it. But meanwhile, we got to jump through hoops to meet y'all expectations. What the fuck is the fairness in that? And then it's like, well, when a woman's like, I really don't need all of, what woman wants to put up with that? Even, I mean, and you know what, the thing about it, when I hear a man say, oh, I want a woman that's older, you want a woman who doesn't know herself yet, because anybody between 18 and 24, they don't know themselves yet. Most women between 18 and 24 don't know themselves yet. They find themselves real fast, depending on their situation that they're forced into, but a lot of them don't know themselves at that age. They don't. But that's the perfect age to manipulate and mold. And that is what most men are looking for.
All right.
That's my thoughts.
Great insight. Willie has expressions, so something is on his mind. So I'm gonna go to Willie, then I'm gonna come with, because Gwendolyn just joined, so I'm gonna get her insight. So Willie, what's going through your mind right now?
I should have blanked out my screen because I was not trying to show too much expression. But she got me once she said that all an older man has to offer is money, finances to a younger woman, and that kind of just threw me. So, oh man, there's so many different things. But I just had a question for you. So that same man, what does he have to offer to an older woman? What, in your opinion? I'm just curious.
Depending on a woman, companionship, because for most older established women, it's not about your money, because if she did what she's supposed to do, she has her own money. If you want to spend your money on her, that's nice, but it's not a necessity. It's just, hey, he decided to do something nice for me. I appreciate that. I'll do the same for him in return. It's more about companionship, not about your money.
Let me just say that. So what if with a younger woman, a lot of people always think is related to money. What if you're the first person that she actually believed in? You're an older person, and she like, man, he's the only person I heard this from. He told me how to do this, and everything he says turns out to be golden. And I love him, I respect him, and I follow his lead. So not every situation with older guys and young women is all about the money, whatever. Sometimes it could be knowledge, and you're willing to receive the knowledge.
I didn't say that. So here's where listening comes in handy. Because
I didn't say you said that.
Wait, because y'all quick to say that we women on the panel, we listen to respond. I never said that. I never even said that wasn't a possibility. From my standpoint, from my observations, most older women, this is what they do to get a younger woman. Oh, I could take you here. I could take you there. I could do this for you. I could change your life. There's not many men out there that are actually sitting down with these young women and telling them how to get their own bag.
Really?
There's not. There's not a lot of older men out here trying to actually educate a woman and put money in her hand, or show her how to get money and put money in her pocket.
That's
and I'm just telling you from my standpoint.
That's your opinion. And I can't argue your opinion.
I'm just telling you from my observation, most of the older men that I see chasing down these young women, they're not trying to educate them or show them how to get money. It's, hey, let me wine you, dine you. I want you to be this young, sweet thing on my arm. And that's that. It's never about, let me show you how to get this bag. It's been a while since I've seen a man who actually was interested in a woman being financially set and stable. A long ass time.
Maybe that might be the people that you're around, because the people that I'm around, the people who in my circle, the people who I associate with, and I'm not going to say, when you said 18 to 24, I doubt, I know that's not the case for a lot of people I know. They may date a younger woman, but 18 to 24, that's a rarity. That's very rare. Somebody like that, I can understand what you're saying, but that also depends on the circle that you hang around, the area that the people you gravitate towards. Because I mean, in the groups and the circle and the business networks and things that I'm with, it may be an older person is with a younger person, but they are grooming them or preparing them to be equal or to create their own opportunities. That is the whole premise, because they want somebody who's not going to be dependent on them for money, to give them money, and then they feel entitled to them. You're looking at that, a person like that normally is a person who's looking for manipulation. They're looking for somebody they can control by that money. But the people who I've been around, the people who I hang around, the people who I see, if they're with a younger person or even an older person. But what they find with the older person is what you said. They already have their degrees. They already have their kids. They already have their money. So they're not as flexible and cooperative to try to build with somebody who may be building or even at a level to come up to that level, because they don't want to change up what they work so hard to achieve. Whereas a younger woman, that the people who I hang around, the people who I associate with, they'll meet that young lady and they see that motivation, that drive in them, and they'll go to that. And then they have that communication, because now they have a level and she can see that, okay, he's looking out for my best interest. So she's going to do the things she needs to do to be able to fit into his world. So she's going to be flexible. She's going to be cooperative. She may even be submissive in some standards. But the thing is, her ultimate goal is that she's trying to be on his level so that way she can stay in his world. Not so much, I just want to be there for the bag. So it's all about the people who you're around also. So in your group, you may see that a lot. Like you said, you see that a lot. In my group, I see just the total
make
opposite.
assumptions. You know what they say about when you make assumptions, because I never said that's my circle. I said that's my observation.
My observations. That means the people that
my
you're around.
observation. But you don't know what. I've never talked about what kind of circles I'm moving. I'm moving all different circles.
What you said.
And I have all different kind of people.
My observation.
That's not my direct circle.
Who you're around. And I said
I never said that was the people that I'm around. I said that's my observations out in the world.
Well, they have to be around you for them to out here.
The people I hang around, we don't have these kind of issues. We don't have them.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna bring Gwendolyn in. Then we go back to her for a next point or whatever the case is. As we can see, it's always going to be differences, people. Always. Gwendolyn, where you at?
Just don't make assumptions.
How y'all doing?
Feelings hurt that way.
My opinion on it is mostly people in their 40s, they may want to gravitate more to a younger girl because they'll feel that they can have more control as far as, because they're young and they can mold them, versus the older person that's already seasoned and, like they say, set in their ways, and they really, it's a lot of them bump heads, so they're gonna not really want to associate with people their own age or, a little older. I mean, that's what we look for, a mate, our own age and things like that, but sometimes, it goes the other way.
All right. So let me say this. So when you say older people set in their ways, so sometimes, yeah, we're all guilty of setting in your ways. But at some point when you realize shit ain't working for you, when do you open yourself up to hear other opinions? So if I'm a 40-something, 50-year-old man and I'm like, man, I ain't really got a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. And, a 50-year-old woman my age approached me and I see she got something going on and like she doing her thing. Sooner or later, I'm going to say, damn, like, okay, I need to take heed to something that is being said. So I don't understand, men or women, like when somebody shows you and you can physically see it and like, yo, they the truth.
But I'm going to tell you, some men are jealous. Some people, they don't like that. I'm telling you, I've been through that. I'm the type of person, I'll help people out. I'll show you the right way to go. If you need help with doing application or forwarding in life to do something better, I'm that person. I'll help you out. And my ex, I always been there to help and things like that. And it's like he got to a point where he felt like, I guess, he didn't like the fact that I was advancing all the time. So it was like he was rebelling against me. I tried to tell him little things to help out and his situation. He didn't want to, like I really don't like saying too much about it because, I don't like putting his business in the street. People who know we were together for 18 years, and I'm more than sure some people watch this show and may see me and know it's him. But in any case, it just seemed like he didn't want to advance. He wanted to live low level, and he was happy with that. I've always been a go-getter. I've always had my own. I always pay my own way. I've never asked anybody for anything. I have a father that helps me anytime. My mother has always been in my life, but she passed away 13 years ago. So I've always been independent and never asked anybody for anything. And it really hurts him because he used to always accuse me, talking about I was jealous of him. And it's like, how can I be jealous of you when I got a close-knit family that'll do anything for me? And then the way you talk about your family, they aren't very much together, and you don't even want to keep a house. You rather stay on the streets, things like that. And just I can't live like that. If that's the way you want to live, you go ahead. I got to advance. I started a business. I got since I met him, I got 2 degrees and I started a business. I had to let him go so I can turn that leaf, so I can be me and do what I had to do instead of sitting, always feel like I got to look over my shoulder and, be like this. Now I'm like this.
Okay, all right. Herb, you heard a lot.
Well,
Here we are.
Bala T, hey, what's going on? Bala T, raise her hand so let her respond. I'm okay. She can go ahead and respond.
Just real quick, just to answer what you were saying, David, about this older, this 50-some-year-old man, and at what point does he start to take advice from a woman? We say that all the see, this is what I talk of. This goes back to that double standard I was talking about, because men are quick to accuse women of trying to change a man when we get in a situation with them, instead of looking at it from the viewpoint of, like Gwendolyn said, she wanted the person she was with to do better. So if I'm advising you as the woman that, who cares about you and who's in love with you or whatever the case may be, that maybe you should try this, to help your situation be better. How is that me changing you? But then you're like, at what point do you start to listen to a woman? And then it's like, well, isn't that more like him submitting and giving over control? I'm just curious.
I
I
mean,
want somebody to tell me the difference in that situation.
I think it depends on the individual. Some people can't take constructive criticism, but if your ultimate goal is to grow, or whatever the case is, and if it's a woman, your significant other, or sometimes it's a friend, and they're telling you something, and you value their opinion, and they walk the walk and talk that talk, then you may open up your ears and eyes to say, you know what, I'm going to try it. A lot of people may not be at that place. So if someone trying to get me across the street or down the road, and it's something that sounds good, I'm willing to listen. I'm just not going to buck it and say, no, you're trying to change me or whatever the case is. Because ultimately, if I'm shining, you going to shine, and vice versa. That's my mindset. That's just me.
But Dave,
Herb.
everybody.
No, go ahead. Willie.
Oh, Dave, I was right, Dave. But from what you're saying, from what she's saying, a lot of times, I'm not gonna say a lot of times, but not everyone's trying to get across the street or down the road.
True.
So you have to understand that first. You have to be able, when you get with that person, you can't come right in and try to make changes so they can grow with you. You have to understand where that person is already and determine if they are somebody that can grow with you. And a lot of times that's not the case. We have an idea picture of what we want in a person, or the way they talk, the way they look. We have a picture. We have an idea of what we want. And when we first meet that person, we look at those things. And then they say, okay, they got all these qualities that I like and I enjoy talking to them. We could talk for hours, whatever. So now I'm going to start doing these things to help us to grow together. But we don't normally, a lot of times people don't take the time to see, okay, we have all these qualities and we get along and we can talk, but where is this person trying to go? What is this person trying to do? Where, are they somebody who I can grow with? And that's where the separation and the problems begin, is because we get so excited that we have this person that we have this bond with, and now we want to help it to grow to the next level. And that person may not be a person, he may be already or she may be already at the level where she can't go any further because she doesn't know to go any further or even have a desire to go any further. So that's one of the things that I find lacking in a lot of relationships, is that people don't really take time to communicate and talk and get to understand each other. You meet people now, and I've met people and they've gotten married or they in love in like 2 weeks or a week. A month, you all in love in a month. How you in love in a month? You can't know a person in a month. But now you're in love and you decide you want to take this person on this journey with you, and you don't even understand the person enough to even know if they're qualified to be in that journey, or if they even want to go on a journey. So I think that's one of the biggest issues, whether it's a younger woman or an older woman. It's all about getting to know the person, because you can meet a younger woman and she could have been one of those young ladies that you say you got that old spirit, or that young man, he's got that old spirit. And so when they had that old spirit, you connect with it because like, man, I feel like I'm talking to, somebody who's 40 years old, 40, 50 years old, because you just niche like that. And so from there, you get to know the person. And the thing is, like I said, communication is key. Communication is key. Text, I tell people all the time, texting is the worst thing that has ever happened to society.
Yes, it
the
is.
worst thing that ever happened to relationships. Everything. Because people can sit at a dinner table or in a restaurant, in the movies, and they're more concerned about texting and reading social media than they are with spending time and getting to know the person that they're with. And as long as there's no communication, there's never going to be a true understanding, because as you do get longer in that relationship and start to do things, you're going to find that, wow, I didn't know he liked this, or I didn't know she liked this, or I didn't know she didn't like doing these things. So now you start to fall back and have all these issues because you never took time to really get to understand what this person was all about. And so that's what that's older and younger. So communication is, if we don't communicate, I don't care how old they are.
Well, no matter what relationship you in, older, younger, work, family, whatever the case is, if you don't have no communication, there's going to always be dysfunctions in your relationship. So that's always going to be key.
And it's just so weird because I've always dealt with guys that are older, like 10 years, 15 years older than me. And then the guy that I choose that's a year older than me, who was like, I couldn't believe the difference. He talked a good game and he went his own business. He was real good, with cars and things like that. So that's why I thought he was do things, but after a while it was like, no, he don't want to do anything. He was the most negative person I ever met in my life, and he made me negative for a minute. I had to snap out of it because I've always been a positive person my whole life, and for me to see somebody's trying to change me into a negative person, I had to snap out of it.
All right.
So is anything say something or ask a question?
Yes,
Hello.
yes. Please hop in.
So I have been listening and watching, and at one point I was actually reading some of the things that were said. So my question has to go with has my question goes towards, I think that was maybe Willie who said that, and it may not be. So I'm just gonna ask the men. Heard and read a lot of men say that they like to choose women that are younger than them, particularly the 18 to 24 category. I know there's somebody on this panel that didn't agree with that. But and one of the reasons why they added that, um, their reasoning for doing so was because she could be trained or molded or groomed to fit their needs. So here's my question. What is the difference between a man who is molding, grooming, or training a woman to be what he wants her to be versus the woman that is trying to assist the man to be what she needs him to be in his life, in her life? The reason I say that is because the first time a woman says anything about a small change, then it becomes she's trying to change me. Why is it a different set of parameters when the man is training this young lady to be who she is, to be what he wants her to be, because you haven't even allowed her a chance to grow into who she is before they're changing her. With that being said, also, I would like to know um, if okay, so I heard someone say when they were talking about the finances that he can teach her how to do this and get her own money because he wants her to be independent and not in his pocket. And when a woman that's a little bit older, because I read that in another group today, she's already at her financial liberation. You don't need to teach her that. You don't need to train her that because she's already there. Why is that off putting when it's a woman, an older woman that has that already set? And I'm going to also say to you guys, I've been busy these last few weeks. And today I've actually not been well today. I think I ate something that wasn't good, but then I remembered it was Monday and I do want to honor the commitment that I said I would do and be here on Mondays. So here I am. That was those are my questions.
Appreciate you joining us. And you have
Can
a
I,
good set
can
of
I take
questions. Go
can I
ahead.
take the
Have at it.
older? I want to take the older because I actually had this discussion with the situation where you're talking about the older woman who already has herself established. Correct? That was one of the parts you
No,
said. So
what I
what I
said,
found is that
what I said,
right.
what I
I want to
said was
touch that part. I just want to touch that part because I
I want
really
to put
don't. Go ahead. I'm
let
listening.
me put that back into perspective. I said that someone on this panel was saying how they would take this younger lady and teach her how to get her own money. And that's because they want her to be financially free. He doesn't want to have to provide for her. So I was saying if it's already a woman who has already reached financial freedom, and maybe she's older, maybe she's not. Why is that a bad thing?
It's
Why is
not a
that the
bad
woman
thing.
who
I was the one
thinks
that
she
said
doesn't know?
about teaching the woman, the younger woman, so she can create her own. I didn't say so she wouldn't be dependent on him. I said so she could bring up and have her own. It's a big difference between having somebody depend on you and having somebody independent enough to create their own opportunities. And then that way you grow together. But the thing is, you have that common bond because he helped you or she helped you to create that opportunity to create that wealth. When you have, and I was going to get back to, I'm going to go back to the older part where a lot of times, and I posted, this is what I posted a couple months ago. It talks about how with an older women who are more mature, more experienced, they've normally had a couple kids, they've gone back to school, and they've got their bachelors, their masters, their PhD, their MBAs, whatever the case may be. Now they've started their career and they have their money. Like you said, they're established. So now when a man comes into their life, they have certain expectations of the type of man that they're going to deal with, the type of man that's going to fit into their world. And that's where the problem becomes, because they're not flexible with the men that they meet. So that man that comes into their life that may have nice money, a nice, looks good and carries himself well, good shape, but he's a garbage man. Oh, I'm not fucking with I'm not fooling with no garbage man. You know what I mean? Or he has a little side hustle job that doesn't fit into her image. A lot of times that's what you find as the higher a person goes, especially an older woman, and some men are that way too. They have a certain standard of what they want. They want a man or a woman that's going to be on their same level or making more than what they make. And if you look at the demographics of incomes, most black men, and they said the average black man makes about $52,000 a year. So if you have a woman that's got her master's, PhD, whatever, she's making $70,000, $80,000 a year, this man who's making $40,000 or $50,000, and like I said, that's the average, $40,000, $50,000 is not going to be somebody she want to fool with, because she's saying, well, he don't make enough. He don't make enough to do, and you know, he may have all the other qualities that, he socialized, he dressed, he talks, all the things she's looking for, but because of his stature of income or the way he makes his income, garbage man, selling socks on the street corner, whatever the case may be, that's the break. That's the break. And so I found that that's been the big issue, is not that there's no, and when I said it earlier, there's no flexibility. There's no flexibility that's, well, okay, well, maybe I can help him to create some other opportunities. They're not willing to do that, because they say, well, I got where I am and I done raised my kids, I done done this. And a lot of times they've already got their mind made up that they're not going to allow themselves to deal with anything where they got to help a man. Well, I'm not gonna help you, I'm not gonna bring you up to where I am. You should already be there. And that's been said a lot of times, that's been heard a lot of times, and it creates a problem, because you end up educating yourself and raising yourself so high that you raise yourself out of relationships, out of a man.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wait, correct me if I'm wrong. But didn't you just say that some people don't want to cross the street? Did you not just say that a few minutes ago? Some people don't want to cross the street. So now what if he's a man that makes $52,000 that don't want to cross the street? What should she do then? Should she continue to deal with somebody who doesn't want to rise to the occasion and be on her level? So are you advising her? Are you advising her to settle for somebody who doesn't want to be in the same category as her? I guess that's my real question. Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, but what you did was you only repeated half of what I said, because I said a person may not want to cross the street. So what you have to do is take time to get to know that person and see where they're trying to go. So you already answered the question. Well, actually, I already answered your question earlier, is that you have to find out where that person is going, or if they're even willing to go before. And then that way you're not wasting your time.
If she meets this, so that goes back to what I'm saying. So she meets this person, right? She meets this guy, and he only makes $50,000 a year. And you're saying that some women who are already established are like, well, he didn't make it to my level. Why should I waste my time? But if she's already observed that that's not what he's into, how is it a problem when she's like, well, I'm not going to waste my time? If he's showing her when they meet, because no woman's going to waste their time entertaining somebody that they're not, that they don't want. No woman is going to waste her time with somebody that she don't want. So listen. What I'm saying is this. So if she gets into this situation, she meets this guy who's making $52,000 a year, and he meets all the checkers except for his income, since everybody seems to be stuck on that shit. and he doesn't meet the market where it comes to income. But after talking to him, she realized that, you know, he's content with that $52,000 a year and he don't want nothing more out of it. And that's the issue for her. Why is it a problem when she's like, well, he don't want no more, so I'm not going to waste my time trying to teach him something he don't want to learn.
Well, who said there was a problem?
You just made it sound like it was a problem because you clearly just said that women who are established don't want to teach men how to get on their level. But if he's already showing her that he don't want to be bothered learning that,
I said earlier
in her assumption.
I said earlier.
And then another thing that you said. First of all, if a man is already established and he's teaching a woman how to get her back, there's no way in hell that they're going to grow together because he's already grown. She's still learning. But you know, that's just my thought.
Really? That's your thought. That is your thought.
Here's also a question that I wanted to ask. So you just lined all the women that are established because they have a standard. Would it be safe to say that you're assuming that younger women don't have a standard? Because I mean, their standard is their father usually. I heard Gwendolyn say, I think that's your name. Your name is Gwendolyn, right? Okay. I heard Miss Gwendolyn say just a few minutes ago that she was with a guy and she was trying to help him get to this point, and that her father was always present and available in her life. So her standard would be the model that she grew up knowing. So why wouldn't it be that these young girls that the older men are seeking, why would you not think they have a model or a standard?
And who said that they didn't know?
My thing is I want to be with someone that I can take to my father. If I can't take you to my father and be proud, I mean, I'm not being picky or choosy because you could be a garbage man. You could be any. You can't. I mean, I don't deal with drug dealers. I mean, that's probably one class of people I won't deal with. But other than that, I don't care if you're a garbage man. I don't care what you do. You can work at McDonald's. You got a job. You got an income. You're trying. I mean, you're trying to advance. You're trying something. You're doing something. You ain't just settling for less. I mean, if you're willing to try to at least advance, I'm willing to work with you. But if you want to
I guess what I'm wondering, oh, I'm sorry. I can't tell when you guys are talking because there's a delay for me.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm really wondering is it something in men's minds that makes them think that women stop learning or achieving or having a drive or compromising or anything else after they turn the age of 40? And the reason why I say that is it just, I guess I'm grown. So I guess there's nothing an 18 to 24-year-old man would be able to offer me besides maybe some bedroom action because he's 18 to 24.
I couldn't
so
even
I'm being honest.
Where did we get this parameter 18 to 24? 18.
That's what I keep asking.
18.
That was my question.
In the 40 range.
That's my question. I'm like, how are we getting
Somebody posted that in the counselor's corner. That's where that came from. Somebody posted a comment about that in the counselor's corner. If you give me a minute, I'll go back and repost it for you if you really want to.
Actually,
that's what
hold on.
Herb actually said it on this platform. He said
I
that
did not.
women that are 18 to 24 are of childbearing age. And I mean, they're a good age to bear children and blah, blah, blah.
Yes, but you're conflating that. You're conflating that with this. They're two different topics.
Exactly.
What was said in the counselor's corner was posted by a female. The age we're talking about is 40 for men. 10 to 15 years younger than men at that age is 25 to 40, not 18 to 24. That's the first thing that we actually need to get correct. This is why I always can caution people that make sure when you're quoting things, you're quoting correctly. For this discussion only, we're talking 25 to 40.
Okay,
That for
well,
most.
So,
there was no place where I saw that clearly defined. I took from that age category is because it was addressed on this panel before, and I was on that panel, so I know it was addressed. I clearly remember Herb speaking about it, and I remember not just that. I saw a post today that was talking about women within a certain age category. So that's the
right.
reason why I'm using that. But let me say this. There's still nothing a 25-year-old man could have for me. He's 25.
That's true.
Your brain doesn't.
But you know what?
But
But you have to
see, this
remember
is
when you say that, you have to look at a situation between men and women. Women mature faster than men, right? Am I correct so far? Women mature
Everybody's
faster than men.
brain,
Listen,
everyone's brain doesn't
okay, all
mature
right.
until
So
the
you're
age
not
of
gonna,
25.
all right. Well, based on what with the youth and the programs that I work with, they have established that women, once young men get to the 4th grade, they fall behind because women begin to mature faster than the boys. So as they get older, you're correct. There's a lot of things that a young man who's 25 years old he's not going to be mature enough to deal with an older woman, unless you said like a sexual thing. Whereas a woman who's 25 or 30 years old, because they mature, some mature a lot faster. There's sometimes you can have that 40-year-old man and they have some things on common that they can relate about and they can work with and they can deal with each other. And that's how they determine if they want to grow. The same thing I said with the 50-year-old woman. You said 50-year-old woman and meeting the garbage man. I said he has the qualities, but because he's a garbage man, I didn't say they got to know each other and he didn't want to grow or anything else. I said because of what his job was, she already had made up her mind that he wasn't on her level. And that happens a lot. And then I use garbage man, but it could have been any job where he's making less than what she's making. And what you'll find is that a lot of times when people have gotten education, masters, PhDs, and those kind of things, they want someone who's maybe a master's, PhD on that same level with them, making the same amount of money that they're making, or making even more money than they're making. They don't want, and so they don't take the time to get to know that person to see if they're willing to come and try to do better, because they've already established that because they're not at that level already. They don't want to take the time to try to groom them or see how cooperative they are or see if they're willing to make some changes in their career to make more money to be together.
That's not
Some people
limited
already
to
had a
women, though,
perception.
because men are guilty of doing that as well.
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
Excuse me? What you said?
I said that's not limited to women, though, because there are a lot of men who have that same mindset. If you don't have your shit together, I'm not going to be bothered. And believe it or not, I recently had a conversation with somebody who said just that, what you're saying. If he meets a woman and she don't have her shit together, he don't got time to sit up there and teach her how to get money and do all that. Like, he'd rather have somebody who already knows how to do those things and they can build something together.
Right.
Well, we're looking.
And so
we're
what he
looking at
just said, now put that in a woman's position. That's the same thing I'm saying, is that some women, just like the man you met, say that about the men some men that they meet. But once they see that they doing whatever they're doing and it's not what they think should be the kind of person that they're ready to be with, then they cut them off. There's no more conversation. There's no more getting to know you, because they've, like you said, he said, they're not at my level. And that's all I was saying, is that women do the same. And I said both people, it happens on both sides. So that's where communication comes in, where people need to take time and understand to see if this person is somebody who's willing to grow with me, or, what potential they have. And then from there, you can determine, okay, are we going to go further with this, or are we going to cut this off, or whatever the case is going to be. But you can't do that in the first 2 weeks of a relationship or when you first meet somebody. And some people do that right off the bat. They meet you, they have a good conversation with you, but then first thing they say, so what do you do? And if that person's response is something that they don't think is to their level, then they don't want to be bothered. And I'll use myself as an example. When I meet people, they say, so I'll talk to them. We have a good conversation. They say, so what do you do? And I say, I write books. And because they don't understand what the potential is for writing books, they lose interest right there. So that shows me that there's somebody who's looking for a certain type of position or some kind of prestige in what that person does. Because when I tell people I write books, a person who knows about authors and writing and the things I do, they know that you can make a lot of money doing it or you can't make a lot of money. But they don't even ask any questions because they just say write books. And most of us don't read. A lot of black people don't read. A lot of white people don't read. So for me to say I write books, they're thinking, well, he don't make no money because ain't nobody reading. And I get that a lot. But I tell people that because it shows me if they're willing to go beyond what I do and find out more about me. And I use that as my way of getting to know a person right off the bat as to how they're going to be with me. So I mean, that's just me.
We're gonna push it back to her. We're gonna push it back to her.
Talk to us.
There's two different topics I think people are overlooking, and one is what I like to classify as a floor, and then a ceiling, which I'll address in a moment after I talk about this. And the other one is class. Women are a lot more sensitive, which is what Willie's talking about when it comes to class. So the money of class and income are always going to be an intersectional thing for women. And the question that needs to be asked is when does class conflict with income? Because if you have a man, like Willie said, who's a sanitation engineer, and he's pulling in 50 to 60 a year, and he's also doing something on the side, which nets him another 20, he's an $80,000 a year man. But because the identification for a class doesn't meet with a woman's expectation, and there's the ceiling, or there's her floor, then she's thinking that he can never meet my ceiling, which for women never stops. A woman always wants a man that can achieve higher than she does. So if her ceiling is a PhD and he doesn't have that, then she's never going to look at him in the same eyes that she would as another man who has a PhD, but who might be learning less than a man who has it. So those are the two things that we need to actually get separated. And I think that's what T is talking about. So if you take a man who's comfortable with a $60,000 a year living, the question that you have to ask yourself as a woman is, do I want to deal with him where he is, or do I want to move on to the next one? If you want to move on to the next one, then you have to make that decision alone without any input from anyone else as to what you want to do. Because at that point in time, it becomes your decision. So if it's your happiness predicated against what he's making, and you settle for what he's making, then that issue should never come up. And eventually, because women are class driven, it will. And that's where the disinterest comes for men. And this is why men opt to date younger, because they don't have to deal with that conflict. Once that conflict is minimized, that man is saying, okay, you know what? I have a woman here who I can groom. So if she wants to go to school, she can go to school, but she's going to be beholden to him because he allowed her to go into her essence, which is to, if she wants to become a mother, she can become a mother. She can also have different lifespans at a different time. So if she wants to have children while she's in that age demographic of 25 to 35, she can have those children. Then she can go back to school knowing she has a man who's a provider, while she's raised the children up to the age where they can go to school. They don't need a babysitter. She can go back and return to school full time, get that bachelor's, pursue a master's, and if she wants to, go ahead and get that doctorate. Next time, they're propelled into a higher demographic with him as the anchor. Women are not anchors, contrary to what y'all believe, because women are driven to earn money for themselves, not the family, despite the exceptions to the rule. Women don't want to be breadwinners. They have chosen to be breadwinners. So if a woman has kids and she has to stop working, where does the income come from? Those are the questions that we don't ask. We skirt around them. And once we start to get into that muck and we start to answer the questions, the woman will say, well, that's up to the man. Well, the man was doing fine by himself. So this is why he opts to date the younger woman, because he doesn't have to deal with those floor expectations.
Just out of curiosity, I heard you saying that a younger woman will be beholden to him because he allowed her to go to school.
I knew that was coming.
That's
yet
okay.
again, yet again, yet again,
He did say
yet
it, but I
again.
knew somebody was gonna bring that up. He
That's
did
okay.
say it, but I knew somebody was gonna
That's
bring that
okay.
up.
There are a lot of assumptions that people are making. No matter how many times someone says these are assumptions that you're making. I'm going to give you an example. My niece graduated from
Hold on.
spelling.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you for one moment.
No. Because when you spoke, I said absolutely nothing.
Hold on,
You're
wait a minute.
going to
I
give
sat
me
on
that
I
same
sat on
respect.
I sat on the panel for
I said,
half an hour, didn't say a thing.
that's fine. But when you did speak, I sat here and I didn't say anything. You're going to give me the same respect that you give to everybody else and the same respect that I gave to you.
I
So
just
that's
want
only fair.
hold on, wait a
That's
minute.
only
The reason
fair.
why I do this, yes,
Listen,
you're right,
I
it
don't
is.
care. I'm trying not to do
And
this with you
that's
tonight.
part of the
I'm just
problem.
trying to have the problem is that when I talk, you feel the need, like you feel like you're somebody special that just can interrupt what I say. Now,
I'm
back to
trying to
what I
give
was
you a different
saying.
perspective that you never considered.
My niece just graduated from
Listen.
spelling. I want you to understand when I say certain things, okay? Her parents put her through spelling. Her parents paid for that, which is usually the case for most young women if they're leaving
It
high
is
school and
not.
going straight.
That's
Let
not the
me
case.
finish. Let me finish, which is usually the case when most young people are leaving home. Their parents are putting them through college, or
It's
they
not. It
got a
is not the
scholarship,
case.
Where that's at?
That's
or
what I
they have
keep telling her.
financial.
She keeps talking about these anecdotal situations, and student loan debt tells
I
you that's
want you
not
to
the
be
case.
quiet so you will know where I'm going. If you shut your mouth and open your ears, you might get the understanding. I haven't yet again finished, and now this reminds me of of certain things. With that being said, either their parents are paying for it, they have a scholarship, they're getting financial aid. Generally, okay, and I'm speaking for the young women that are of age now. So her parents put her through college. She's got her bachelor's degree. Her thoughts, her thoughts on dating, which was reflected by a bunch of other young folks in that category, was that when men who are older of a certain age address them, it doesn't matter what he's doing. It could be, unless he's some rich millionaire from off of TV, it doesn't matter. Because in their mindset, they don't find older men attractive. To each his own. Everybody has that choice. And so that's where I was going with that when you were saying, oh, they would be beholden. No, there's a lot of takers in this world, male and female. And you could do all that and she can take everything you give and it won't make her beholden to you. Your character and your integrity will make them beholden to you. There are many other things at play. It's not about the class, it's not about the money, it's about who you are. And Willie said communication is necessary. It absolutely is necessary. I absolutely agree that it is necessary. But I'm making a point. The point I use that story to say this: there's a lot of assumption, and those assumptions are not necessarily right. You guys speak on things about women, but when women tell you about women, you don't accept that. But you have
Hold up.
consistently asked,
What?
consistently, you consistently ask the women
Uh,
when you guys speak on behalf of a man, you want us to accept that. Where is the balance? That's what where's the balance?
the balance is this is the issue. Now I'm talking whatever. The balance is a lot of times guys we don't say much, and then when guys start speaking, that's when the issue arises. A lot of times we let y'all talk and talk and talk. Y'all be doing a lot of JBTing, just be talking. And let me clear this up. Brolic T, you keep saying the 1824 in the counselor's corner, like that's a rule, like that's a standard, like we got some club of men and we're trying to recruit 18 to 24-year-olds. No, somebody
I
might have
never
posted
said
that,
such a thing. What I'm
but you
saying
keep
is
saying
that
the
it
counselor's
has
corner.
been, and what I'm saying is it has been a repeat
Listen,
mantra lately. And if you want, David, I can send you all the different ones where I had to sit through and read these men talking about these 18 to 24-year-old
people that come on.
That's basically what they are at that age, a hole in the wall.
These people that come on. These people can come on who say that. That's their opinion.
10 to 15, dating a woman that's 10 to 15-year-old. When ironically, a few weeks ago, we had a conversation. It was asked, what could a woman 30 and over do for men? And we were told that women 30 and over can do nothing for a man. So now we're talking about a man in his 40s dating somebody who's 10 to 15 years younger, when we were just told a couple weeks ago that a woman in her 30s and over can't do nothing for a man. So that's why I'm amused. And you can take that how you want to take it.
I'm going to take it how I want to take it, but it ain't coming from me, whatever. So
I can send it all to you.
If it ain't came from me,
that was a point of reference. That age that I used was a point of reference because it's one that's been seen. So she just gave you back the point of reference.
And all I'm saying is the predominant figures who speak in the counselor's corner, you ain't heard none of us say 18 to 20, especially the age 18. 18.
Somebody on this panel most definitely said it. Somebody 18. On this panel most definitely said it. You know what? I'll show it to you.
Well, you're going to have to show it because 18, they definitely ain't said that. Now, if we're saying
actually,
40,
you were the one who disagreed with that. You said, I don't agree with 18. I'm going to see how that works out.
You disagreed, David, but somebody else on this panel most definitely advocated for 18 to
24-year-old. No, it wasn't me.
And Herb said that was the best childbearing age. So this has a point of reference. And I don't want to make this about potatoes, but this is where that point of reference is coming from. So that's what I'm saying. And she's right. Just a few weeks ago, y'all said throw the whole entire generation away. There's nothing that women over 30 could do. Yes, they just go back and watch your show.
I didn't say that. So I don't care what you can watch.
I said it was said. I said it.
Nobody said that you said it, but somebody on the panel most definitely did say it.
We'll call him out then.
Like, Herb was the one who said it. You know, the big bad wolf. Like, I'm saying, he know what he said.
I've said this once before.
That was definitely a question that was asked of him, and that's what he said. Women over 30 can do nothing for a man. So now we're talking about older men dating women 10 to 15 years younger. Make up your mind. Y'all want a woman who's established and knows herself to deal with, or you want somebody that you can mold? Can't have both. Pick a side and stand on it.
Hold on, Willie. I've said this once before. Willie, hold on. I've said this once before, and I'll reiterate it. If you're going to quote me correctly. I hate when people misquote. The question was asked, what can black women do for the black community over 30? And I said nothing because you're past the age of childbearing. That does not mean that women older than 30 can't have children. That means it pushes you into geriatric pregnancy, which means you run a high risk of a miscarriage or a child born with birth defects. That's what I said. Quiet. Be quiet. You don't want me interrupting you. You don't want me interrupting you.
See how that feels? So, you don't like that?
No, I don't have a problem with it, but if you don't want to don't do
it. At any age, there's no such thing as a specific age and where you run the risk of not having a high risk pregnancy. I had 2 high risk pregnancies in my 20s, sir. So that shit don't mean nothing. It has no bearing on your age at all. You could be any age and have a high risk pregnancy. Being over 30 doesn't mean anything.
So what would an OBGYN tell you what a high risk pregnancy is and what age?
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't tell you what age.
They don't tell you.
That is untrue. That is untrue.
Happen at any age.
They do tell you.
How do you know? Did you give her?
What is the consensus doctoral opinion?
This is what they tell you at the OBGYN. They say the older you are, the more likely you are to have a child born with Down syndrome. That is totally different from having a high-risk pregnancy. Having a child born with birth defects, that's totally different from having a high-risk pregnancy. A high-risk pregnancy can happen at any age. It's not limited to age. You could be any age and have a high-risk pregnancy as a female. But
And
you're
Correct.
more likely to
younger your
have a
body is,
child who has some kind of birth defect the older you are.
So,
So if you're going to quote it, get it right. God damn it,
so,
But
we go to
is that not what
OBGYN. How you
is
gonna
that
tell
not
me
what
what
I
that tells
said?
me?
so,
Is that
so let
not
me
what
and
I said?
understand.
so let me ask you
Just
this. Let me ask you this.
No,
Let me ask
that's
you this.
not. You said the older that
We're
Hold
you
up.
trying
are,
to
the more
educate
likely you
you at
are
this
to
point.
have a high risk pregnancy. That's not the same as having
I
a child
said,
born with
and
birth
a
defects.
child born with birth defects.
No, you didn't.
Go
But
back,
let
go
me
back and
educate you
listen.
even
I'm
further.
quite clear
The
on the
younger
things
you
that I
are,
say.
the younger you are when your body enters pregnancy, the greater the chance you have of having a high risk pregnancy, especially if you happen to be a person that develops a little slower than the rest of your female counterparts.
So let me ask
You
y'all
can
this.
be 18 to have high risk pregnancy.
So let me ask you this. So a 40-year-old woman, she gets pregnant. There's no high risk because y'all, it's a
There's
lot
no
of
high
movement
risk.
at this. But
No,
there's no
there's
high
no
risk
high
for a
risk.
40-year-old, a
If she
40-year-old
doesn't
woman.
have health issues, if she has no health issues or
So,
no family history, then no, there's not a high
so
risk.
women can have
There
so
is a
women can have
difference.
a baby at any age without any risk being involved.
There's a difference in a birth defect versus a high risk. That's what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. There, high risk can be any age. She can be 40, she can be 20, she can be 16 and 13. And
We're
it's
not
still a
talking
high
about the
risk. She
latter,
can
the
be
lower age.
65.
So I'm asking a woman 40, 35 or over. So there's no risk or anything as far
For
as
some women,
pregnancy.
for some women in
I
that
just said,
category of
yeah,
35 and over, no, some of them do not have a high risk pregnancy. I've known
They
some who
get
have
high
been in
risk
their
pregnancy.
30s and who have been over 35 and had no complications during their pregnancy. That
But
does happen. There are women, but there's a large majority of women where at any age they can have a high
So
risk
so
pregnancy.
far as men, they can have kids when they're like 60, 70 years old.
yeah, but your sperm
Yeah,
degrades over the course of time. You're not pushing out the same quality of sperm as when
that
you
you
were
were when
20.
you were in
Yes,
your
you can
20s and your
reproduce
30s.
for
So
your
that don't
entire life. You
so that don't
definitely
pertain
can
to women.
reproduce.
So that don't pertain to
Huh?
women when they get older.
What pertains to women is after, let's say after maybe they 60s, they stop
60s.
producing the eggs. So up until they 60s, they can have children. Some women later than that. Some women later than that. So if she doesn't go through menopause, yeah, nothing affects that. Nothing.
can,
But
can
as
I
you
say
guys
what I've
get
heard?
older,
God.
Can I say what I've heard? And I understand what you ladies are saying. And I think there's some kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding. I've also heard that they say a woman who gets like 35 and above is considered high risk pregnancy. It doesn't say that she is a high risk pregnancy. It's considered higher risk pregnancy. So there's more potential for there to be complications once they get into the 35, 40, 45 age range. Whereas a younger woman, the risk isn't as high as it is as you get into those later ages. It's not saying that it's a high risk. They're saying that the older that you wait to get pregnant, the higher potential it is for you to have some complications. So I think that's where
what
the
the actual
miscommunication is.
correct
It's not so much
information
that there is or isn't going to be, because like you said, there's some women 40, 50 years old that do surrogates for their kids, but it's not, but it's still considered a higher risk pregnancy. It's not a high risk pregnancy. You know what I mean? It's not like something's going to happen to you because you're 40, 50 years old having a baby, but there's a potential that you may have more complications at that age versus that younger age is what they mean by higher risk pregnancy. I don't think they're saying that
anytime anyone
once
is
you
a
get there, you're
surrogate,
just
really.
in danger. And
Anytime anyone is a
that's just from what I read.
anytime
I'm just telling you.
anytime there's a surrogate, the risk is high because you're taking a fertilized egg from its natural place and implanting it elsewhere. So yes, that does increase the risk. What you're not getting, I think that the lost in translation part is the older a woman gets, the higher chance she has of birthing a child that may have Down syndrome or slight birth defect. In some cases, even a bad birth defect. It does not mean high-risk pregnancy, though. That's what I'm saying. The younger your body is, because your body is not developed, you stand a high risk, period. Any pregnancy can be high risk. It doesn't matter what the age is or anything else. But as far as producing a child that may have Down syndrome, which this also occurs in young women as well, it goes to your genetics, it goes to your health, it goes to your family history. There's a lot of things that go into factor with making the child. Because, for example, some women don't have diabetes, but when they get pregnant, they're diabetics, which makes them a high-risk pregnancy. Only doing is called gestational diabetes. Only occurs when they're pregnant. That pregnancy is high risk no matter what the age is. You can be 17, 18, 19 and have that factor in. There's other things that happen that causes a pregnancy to be a high risk, and it has nothing to do with age. But if you're saying that the older a woman gets, the higher chance she has of birthing a baby with Down syndrome, yes, that's correct. It's not exclusive to older women, but it is correct. So that's what I was trying to convey to you all. High risk has nothing to do with age. Birth defects can be impacted by age, and by birth defects, Down syndrome, because a lot of them Down syndrome kids just have Down syndrome, but they be smart as well. But that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So, and this is why I say there's a lot of assumptions that be made that are incorrect. I think you would say not one man has ever had to get up on the table and put his legs in the stirrup. You know, so they're just like a woman ain't never had a cough test, because we don't have the equipment for the cough test. So there's different things. So I can't make an assumption about okay, so he's going to be high risk because of this.
Listen, this platform ain't never been based on actual statistics, like we collect the data. This has merely been conversation. Us having conversation as black people, white people, whoever. So a lot of people looking for social science facts, whatever. And this has never been my plan. We're having conversations, stuff that should be talked about and shouldn't be swept under the rug. But a lot of times people are like, oh, you're looking for scientific facts or for medical doctors and all that to prove this. This is what it's not been about. It's never been about. And prior to what y'all think, I've been doing this for a while. And it's just about having regular day-to-day conversations, which is a lost art.
So Dave, if we're having a conversation, does not, okay, so they say, because this is about whether or not people, when they're older people date younger people, blah, 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 blah. So is it not good information still?
No, I mean, it's still good information, but I always tell people when I have this platform, I think about me and my boys, whatever, sitting around and we having a conversation, or a group of us having a conversation, and I'm not looking for empirical evidence or whatever the case is. We just bringing up topics and having a conversation about it. Now, whether you decide the next time, oh, I'm going to do some research on that so I could be ahead of the game, but that's what it's not about. We're not trying to throw out no false information or whatever the case is. We're just having conversation, just talking about certain subject matters.
Right, and I get that, but I mean, next time you sitting around a group of guys, see the assumption, guys or females, the assumptions in some of those conversations, is what leads people in the wrong manner, wrong direction, or where they can't seem to bridge the gap because the assumptions are there. If we take away the assumptions and give good information one to another, then that's a help to everybody.
Here comes the question with that. I cited statistics on this panel, on this show multiple times, only to have them refuted because they don't align with how people think and feel. Mm-hmm. So what do you do when people reject information that has been credited, peer-reviewed, and certified as accurate?
Well, Herb, at no point in time did you hear either one of us state a statistic. What we gave is pure information. I mean, you give us pure information all the time. Well, information that you think is valuable. We listen. I could take that in. I might not agree with this, but this is pure information. This is pure information about the female body that men don't know, because guess what they don't do? Give birth. So this is information that you can't possibly necessarily have experience for one, or might not have a great knowledge about, because it's not something that
Well,
affects you in the
That's
same way
well,
it affects the woman.
and I
well,
but
you're
I didn't
assuming.
give a
that button, please.
I didn't,
Well, you're assuming that us as males don't have any female like mothers, sisters, aunts, or whatever
not
that
what
can
I
share
said.
some of the
That's
information.
not what I said.
So we're not talking
That's
about
not
us
what I said.
delivering babies or whatever the case is, but certainly you hear
What I
conversations
said,
about this.
Dave, what I said is that pregnancy doesn't affect men in the same way that it does the female body. That's what I said. And that's a correct statement.
Go ahead,
So what
Gwendolyn.
does
You
that
want
have
to say
to do with
something?
a man
Yeah,
40 dating
Hold
a
on,
younger
Gwendolyn.
woman?
Hold on, Willie. Gwendolyn wanted to get in.
I just wanted to say something. You always talking about statistics. I'm the type of person, I don't believe in statistics, because believe me, I work doing surveys, and you get so many people that'll ask you, what should I put? You got to put what the truth. You got to put the truth on the paper. They want to give you the answer so that we want to give. Things like that.
Right.
That's why I really don't believe in statistics.
Right. And we had that conversation on here, Gwen, and that's the reason why I don't introduce statistics. What I was just speaking about female body and pregnancy and everything, that has nothing to do with statistics. It's just
Or the topic.
facts
But
about pregnancy.
hold
So,
on. But, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was done. Go ahead.
But this becomes the overriding factor when women talk about things that men, or they don't believe that men don't know about pregnancy. Doctors only know primarily about the patients that they treat. The other way that they get information is they talk to other doctors in obstetrics, or they talk to other cardiologists, or they go reference medical magazines, medical files from years, patients, as if we men can't do the same thing. We may not have the hands-on experience, but we certainly do have the aptitude to open a book, sit down, read, and understand these things.
I understand.
At no point in time did I say a man couldn't. I was explaining to you the difference of how pregnancy affects a female's body versus a man. I never said a man couldn't learn about that. Never did I say that. But there are distinct differences in how that's going to affect what you learn versus what a woman learns. Because if they come and tell her she has toxemia because of her pregnancy, now she has to make sure she finds out what it is, because it can cost her life and the life of her child. Whereas the father might go and he might research that information, but there are still factors that are at play that he may not be able to address. That was all I was saying. At no point in time that I say men are ignorant and can't pick up a book. I said that there was assumptions being made, and I wanted to correct the assumptions, which is what I did. No point in time did you hear me say anything about a man can't learn. I said pregnancy affects men differently than it does the female body. And that's because men can't give birth.
But that's my point. We are discussing what we know, and the information that we know we have gotten from sources outside of us. We understand that we can't conceive. We understand that we do not endure the whole pregnancy thing. We understand we do not deliver, but we do know that we can go read about toxemia. We know that we can go read about diabetic pregnancies. Anything that a woman experiences, we can go read. We don't have to endure the physical action of it, but we can certainly go down and read and see what this does.
I just said that. And I also said much in the same way a woman can't experience a cough test. We don't have a prostate. So they may say there's something wrong with your prostate. Of course, we're gonna go and learn about it, but guess what? We're not gonna be able to see the pain and the damage that it's causing to your body internally. But I bet you could feel it because you're a man with a prostate. I couldn't relate to that because I'm a woman without a prostate. I can support you. I can take care of you. I can educate myself. I can change my lifestyle to suit you. But that internal thing, only you're going to feel that. So it's no different. I'm not even understanding at what point did I say nobody can become educated. I said it's still going to affect you differently.
But this all started from what we were classifying as a high-risk pregnancy. No more, no less. That can be documented. A high-risk pregnancy or pregnancy that can lead to birth.
It started from the assumption that a high-risk pregnancy only happens in older women, and that's not true.
Listen, I'm over the pregnancy bit. I'm over the pregnancy. Unless anyone on this panel trying to have a baby, the premises of this whole thing was a modern man in their 40s and over, suitable for marriage.
There are women.
I'm not trying to have no damn kid.
So let's circle back to what David said, because you see how he just said he ain't trying to have no damn kids. So if you meet a woman who's 10 to 15 years younger than you, and she want to have kids, and you don't want to have no damn kids, what are your options?
Vasectomy.
No, I'm talking specifically to David. What is his options?
What if my options?
Obviously, I don't need Willie to answer. I want David to answer this one because I want to see what he's going to say.
You ain't going to have me fold up, obviously, throughout our conversation if I say,
what are your options in this situation? Are you going to pass up this young woman? Are you going to pass up this young woman because you don't want to have children?
Yes, indeed. If I tell her, I'm done. That's all I want to know. I'm done. I'm out of the game.
That's all I want to know.
If she say, "Oh, why want to have kids?" then there's nothing furthermore for us to go on about. Nothing further to go on.
Now, was that so hard? Now, if it was, I didn't need to hear vasectomy and birth control. This is not what you want. Birth control is not going to keep a woman from getting pregnant. I'm so tired of men saying that shit. That shit is not 100%. The only thing that is 100% is abstinence. Okay.
Okay. So can I know more than enough women pregnant
on fucking birth control.
That
shit is not 100% effective. Stop saying that.
So I'm not doing no abstinence. I don't care what you say.
And you might want to consider getting a damn vasectomy because birth control ain't 100%.
That's what I said.
And you better make sure that the doctor you got is real damn good. You better make sure the doctor that you got is real damn good. Because if they botch it, you're going to end up with one. Make sure they get that shit right the first time.
And understand this, really, you are one of the few men who have actually outright said, I would go and get a vasectomy to prevent pregnancy. A lot of
most
other
men don't even say they're going to get a vasectomy. They say that's the woman's responsibility.
And tell her to take.
Well, I didn't say I was going to get one. I said that's what they can. That was the option. I ain't say I'm going to get one. I'm just saying that's the option because I'm going to have at least some sex. I don't care.
I was right here. I was right here with you. And what I said was, you were one of the few men who have actually said that that is an option. I didn't say you were going to get
most men don't even advocate. Most men don't even advocate going to get a vasectomy. They be like, "Oh, birth control is the responsibility of the woman. So if a child is conceived that I didn't want, it's all her fault." And rah rah rah. You're the first man to ever say that man can go get a damn vasectomy. Problem solved.
Yeah, but you know what? I work with young boys and I teach young boys in the schools, and that's a discussion that we have all the time. And I tell them it's not the woman's responsibility to, you know, be the only one taking care of the situation. They may say they're on birth control, but are you going to trust them? Because at the end, that's going to affect your income, your livelihood, your savings. And we go through this because we do financial literacy, but we use that as part of the discussion. If you get a young lady pregnant, how can you hold her responsible when you didn't take the steps that you needed to take in order to prevent a pregnancy from happening? Whether it's abstinence, which most of these young kids aren't having no abstinence. And so it's going to either be birth control, condoms, vasectomy, or whatever, you know what I mean? It's going to be, you need to take some care on yourself as a young man. So this way you avoid having yourself in a situation where you end up losing your money. And when you talk to young men about losing their money,
your whole entire lifestyle. You lose your lifestyle when the child.
No, I'm talking about money. When you tell them, I understand what you mean, but see, when I teach them financial literacy, I show them, I said, your savings, your job, your career, whatever business you start, your stocks and bonds, your real estate investments, all that's going to start going to the kids that you make.
So you don't talk about being a father.
You have to do things.
You just talk about finances, not being a father.
What?
You just talking about them being like their finances, not actually being a father in the situation.
No, I'm talking
that
to
they
them
not
about
create
how
children
being
before
a
they're
father
ready
could
to be
affect
fathers.
having a baby out of wedlock, how it can affect their finances, how it could affect their business, how it could affect their stocks and bonds, how it could affect. So when you show them how that's going to take away from them, they think twice about some of the actions that they make. My job and what I do in my program is to show young men how their actions can the reactions to their actions. So that's why I talk about teaching kids how to play chess, because when you play chess, it's not like checkers. When you play chess, whatever move you make, you have to also prepare for what the reaction is going to be. And that makes them start to think ahead of what actions they make in life as well. So that's why I talk about it in that manner.
And I think for his program, he's not going to be encouraging kids how to be
not only for
a
yourself,
father.
but you got to think for the person sitting across from you. What move would they make?
I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
No, what I was saying.
I said in chess. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying in Willie's program, he's not going to be teaching kids how to be a father. He's trying to tell them, get your stuff in line before this happens, whatever. Make sure you secure your benefits before you go into fatherhood, because a lot of times these kids, 16, 17-year-old, and they having kids, and they ain't got shit. And that's where the cycle goes down, whatever.
I mean, that's true, but it's also part of taking away from their lifestyle of being a father is also part of taking away from their lifestyle, not just finances.
Now, when you're talking about kids,
when you talk about finances, you are talking about a lifestyle, because think about it. You're 16, 17 years old, and you're used to going to the mall every week when you get your little check and buying yourself sneakers and all that. That entire lifestyle of going to the mall, that shit just went down. That shit just went down the toilet.
Exactly. So when you make them think about that,
there's no more going to the mall to buy for yourself. Now you're going to the mall to make sure that kid has clothes. You gotta go to the store, make sure that kid has diapers, make sure that kid has formula. Your whole lifestyle, which is attached to your finances, changes.
Exactly.
So
and that's what the discussion. So when you make them think about that, when you make them think about that, that's what happens.
We do know.
So I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but the thing
definitely impact your lifestyle. What I was saying, like for example, if there's a kid that loves, let's say, hockey more than he loves his finances, that might not be the thing that works with him. But when you say, listen, that's the end of your hockey career. You ain't going pro or nothing else because you're gonna be at home baby bottle feeding or whatever have you. The only reason I made that stipulation is because it's not always the money that gets them. A young man I know had a baby.
No, I get what you're coming from, because let's say, all right, I'll give you an example. Let's say one of your mentees, he's got dreams of being this famous basketball player, and that's all he knows. He want to be a basketball player, right? Now he had this baby. How he going to college and doing all of that? How he gonna go and become this basketball player? Because now he need to go out and get a job and support this baby. All that going to practice and hooping on the weekends, that's null and void as of now.
But you can also use our example. Hold on, we can even use your example. You said about the hockey, and I'm gonna just use your example so you can accept it. The thing is, you say to him, "All right, you make a baby, all your hockey league and practice and your equipment has to stop, because now that money that was paying for that has to go towards a baby. So now before you can even get a career, before you can even think about a career anymore, that's all has ended, because instead of you going to hockey practice now, you have to go and take care of a child. So it's all about finances. And with young people, their whole premise is trying to make money so they can get out of their home, so they can help their parents out, so they can do better, help with their families. So when you show them how they're jeopardizing the goal that they have, and that's what the young men I work with, we do financial literacy. We show them savings, entrepreneurship, introduction to real estate. We just introduced franchising, and then we do introduction to the stock market. All ways where they can make money so they can use that instead of turning to the streets to sell drugs and all the things that young people do, because that's what they see as the only way that they can survive and make money. So when you show them how those things can be affected, and you show them how those things are affected.
This is the reason why I said that. A young man I know, 14 years old, 14, when he had his first child, 14. That I don't think he was not educated about money and everything. Long story short, you know what he said to me one day? He called me auntie. I don't know why, but he called me auntie. He said, auntie, if my mother had told me I had to stop playing football if I had a baby, I wouldn't have never had no kids. I understand, because he was already a little small business owner. He already did his own little, I forget what his shop thing. I think he sold T-shirts or something. He used to draw on the T-shirts or something like that. So he was financially liberated actually at 14. But what he didn't understand was this baby not only affects your money, that dream, and he was a darn good football player. Loved it. He said, if my mother had told me, or my father for that matter, like I don't know why his daddy didn't tell him, but he said, if my mother had told me that I couldn't play football, I would have never had no baby. And that's why I added that insert of lifestyle, because some young men and some young women are not motivated by money. So that won't be the catch-all for everybody. But when you start talking about a lifestyle change, like you like to do this and do that, understand that that's over with. So that was the only reason why I was trying to tell you the story, and the reason why I said that before everybody else started talking. That was the only reason why I added that insert. Of course, money affects your lifestyle, but for those who don't care about money, there has to be another hook for them to understand that yes, your lifestyle is still affected. I don't care if your mama and daddy leave you $50 million. A baby changes your lifestyle, period.
But see, that's the thing about the programs, whatever. When you have conversations, whatever, you have needs assessments and you talk about that, so you know what drives your clientele. So you get that information out of them. So that's what drives your program, is those needs assessments, and they're telling you what they need. So a lot of times when you have these programs, you already know what these kids, what each one of them is looking for. So it's not like they're just coming out of the blue. So you can kind of single-handedly gear your program toward the individuals that you're working with.
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Yeah, because this is what happens. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just about to address the same thing that you were, because when I told you that I did my program, it was absolutely necessary for me to get the inputs from the parents. In other programs, it's not necessary because the programs are tailored a certain way. So I get what Dave is trying to say about the assessment, but I know that kids don't always share everything. They give the approved answer. And when you learn who that child is and learn what their life is or whatever their experiences are, then you know where the motivation lies. I understand what I was about to address that same thing, but go ahead, Herb.
Well, no, to follow up what you say, and I'm sure Willie does this because I do it. We sit down when we do an intake and we get a needs assessment. We don't necessarily ask questions for direct answers. Sometimes we're asking questions just for what you said, to see what they're going to tell us. And it's in the process of actually dealing with them, and more importantly, their peer group because that's where you're going to find out a lot of the information from. You'll see what drives their behavior, because most of these kids, and the thing about this particular portion of the conversation, even though it's not, it's an offshoot of what we're saying, teen pregnancy rates are going down. That's across the board. I mean, we may not know that, but the largest cohort of single parents is not teens now. It's middle-aged women in their 30s. So this is what we actually, this is why we talk about, that 40 threshold for men. Because for me, 30 was the threshold that I said, I don't have any kids right now. I'm not going to have any kids. So whether it's not just completely abstaining from sex or only dealing with women who are proven to be infertile, as far as my satisfaction is concerned, I just don't deal with it. So that's one of the reasons why this type of topic comes up, because I'm not looking for a woman who has children under her auspice. I'm not looking for women who can't conceive. I don't care how attractive she is. I don't care what she brings to the table. She's out. She can catch the next thing smoking out of town. We ain't even having that discussion. We might sit down, we might chit chat, we might kick it, but in terms of doing anything else, that's null and void. That's stamped by, disapprove. We can't even talk about that. So that's whatever it is. I don't care what age she is. That's just me. That's set in stone, reinforced with concrete rebar. Dead. So that's why we're talking about this, because a man of myself who will be 50 this year, I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, you got your money. You have your degrees. But ultimately, what I want is companionship, cooperation. I want somebody who can help me achieve what it is that I'm trying to achieve. Yes, you're doing well for yourself. You have this home, you have these cars, you have all the things that you could want. But what is it that you need from me? And that's ultimately that becomes the question to what is going to lead the man to saying, okay, you know what? She's a viable candidate for marriage. This is why men like myself are just like, you know what? We're just out here floating in a suspended animation until we see something that, she has that je ne sais quoi.
So let me ask you this, whatever.
So
Willie,
the men that are in suspended animation, a lot of those are basing the things on age. 35 is not middle age. That's not middle age, in my opinion. So if that's the factor, that's your guiding factor, that's the reason why there's so many people out there twisting in the wind, because they have a certain thing. She's got to be, if she's over 35 or under 35 or 40 or everything 30 and 35 and under, throw them away. But you're looking for companionship from someone who's suitable to you. But because of those parameters, and this is why this conversation a lot of the time feels like it's going in circles, because there are many women and men who take those parameters away and find their happiness. There are some who are so rigid that they're stuck in that rigid area, which has taken away the options. So that's why this conversation is so redundant a lot of times.
So despite what you say, if you say that men dying at the age of 69 or 70, or 70 years old, 35 would be middle age.
But it's not.
35 would be middle age. If you die at 70, you do the math. A lot of things about life is about math and
developmental psychology, 35 is not middle age.
Okay.
So middle age is about 40, 45 to about 55, 60. That's middle age.
So if a man dies at 70,
according to developmental psychology.
I don't give a damn with that. I'm talking about mathematics. If man dies at 70,
I'm telling you what education says.
what's half of that? What's half of that?
Nobody knows how old they're going to be when they die. So to assume 35 is
I will say my daddy 85. He's still living and he lives by himself.
Okay. We know that some people defy the odds, but if you say on the average that a man, average man is dying at 70, Middle age is 35.
Yeah.
You don't want to believe that, but that's how it is. That's not. You
35
can't.
to 40.
Yeah, you can't dispute math.
Mathematics has nothing to do with developmental psychology.
Mathematics has everything to do with life, whether you think about it or not. Math and science. Math and science.
Middle age is when you should
portion
have
of what
got
I
it together and be able to function and take care of business. You should have been
rational conversation.
An important part of that you missed, because I said, in my opinion,
I wasn't even talking about your whole thing.
35 is
Somebody
not
said the average age, like men are dying at 70, whatever. So I did the math and divided by 2, and I came up with 35. I was not thinking about nothing you had said.
That's what I'm saying, though, because you said 35 is middle age, and I said, to me, 35 is not. I said, and I clearly said, in my opinion. So that's what, nobody knows what age they're going to die. You might be 99 years old when you leave here. Don't nobody know that.
My grandma's 107 years old.
The problem we get hung up on, again, is absolutes, whatever. You make a statement, you put something out there, and then you're like, oh, nobody knows. Like, it's locked in. Like, oh, I'm 69. I'm 69. I'm about to die at 70. That don't mean that's the case.
I was telling you from an educational standpoint about developmental psychology and how it works.
But this, Anita, this becomes a question. Hold on.
Doesn't say 35 is middle age, and y'all can laugh at me and smile and all that bullshit, but I'm telling you 35 is not considered middle age.
I mean, if somebody tell me on the average I'm gonna die at 70, 35, I'm like,
what's middle age?
But you don't know when you're gonna die, so 35
is nothing to it when you're gonna die. The average age is 70 to 72.
Anita, this becomes the bigger question.
70 to 72 years old. That's what he's saying. It's not saying when he's going to die. He said the average man, based on statistics or whatever, 70 to 72 is the average age. So you're looking at 35 to 30 to 40.
But it's not. It's not middle age.
Because I've heard, growing up, and I'm sure y'all on this panel did too, always hear them talking about a midlife crisis, right? Somebody tell me what age category that midlife crisis occurred in.
Usually in your 40s, you have your midlife crisis.
Nothing to do with middle age.
Yes, it does.
Usually in your 40s.
Have you ever taken developmental psychology class? Have you ever taken a developmental psychology class?
Crisis.
You have your midlife crisis and they start going bananas.
You have to realize how y'all sound
middle
like.
age and midlife crisis are two different things. Two totally different things. Middle age and midlife crisis are two totally different things.
Totally. I just want to get back. Yeah, they are. Anita. What you may not be looking at is developmental psychology deals with the mind, correct?
It deals with the whole. The lifestyle, the age, how you develop. What you laughing about? I'm being serious.
You got to repeat that. You were broken up, Anita. Can you repeat that, Anita? You were broken up.
I'm talking about developmental psychology goes through the whole stages of life. That's what the whole class is about. So it doesn't say 35. At 35, that's middle age. You're still forming your life at 35. Midlife is between 40-ish and about 55-ish, 55, 60.
Oh. See, mathematically, that don't even add up. So I'm going to die at 70. I'm going to die at 72, 78, 60. That's middle age.
Okay, I'm in middle age.
She said developmental psychology. That's a full study of a full life cycle. Full life cycle. So yes, that can apply. It's a full life cycle. If you ever took human development, it's a full life cycle.
Me, I took lifespan and development.
Here's the saying.
You should know 35 is in midlife.
Right? Once a man, twice a child. That's the saying that applies in that community. So there is a
Rational
parameter
conversation.
for that.
It's not irrational. It's
How's that
educational.
irrational?
I didn't say irrational.
How
I
is
said
that?
rational.
Oh, okay.
Rational
Okay.
conversation is what I said. I said rational. I said rational.
Okay.
I say it all the time. Rational conversation. That's all I say.
Irrational people. You might as well finish that statement.
Right, because you're trying to take a little dig, but it's all right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
always. Like, we don't
It's
know.
all
Like,
right.
please believe people remember what people say on here. Nothing else. You remember when people issue an
I'm
insult.
glad you remember.
Remember
See,
that
I
shit
didn't
more.
remember. I didn't
You
have to
remember
finish
that
it.
shit more than when somebody give a compliment. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, this is what happens when people try to have intelligent conversations, and then when you run out of information, it becomes a personal thing. And here we go with the digging. Ain't nobody up here none of these women have taken the dig. None of us.
Pretty
None of the
much. I
women on
haven't
this
taken a dig to nothing. I never take a dig to anything that's
don't
said
take
on
the
here.
dig either.
Everybody
And
is
so when
entitled
that
to their
happens,
opinion. If I don't agree, I simply don't agree. But I'm not gonna knock you because I don't agree with your opinion.
that's
So
I'm
what's the
not knocking
need to
anybody.
be offensive?
but
I'm
there was
not
no
knocking
need for the
anybody.
dig.
I just said rational
I
conversation.
mean, you sitting up there issuing
There's no need
insults
for
like
the dig.
nobody knows what that means. You say it
That's
all
not
the
an
time.
insult.
That
I
is
say it
very
all the
much an
time because
insult. Just because you don't say the whole
that is
thing
not an
doesn't make it
insult.
less of an insult.
That's not an insult though. It was what's taking place.
All right. We can move on. Next, because I'm not going to entertain you and your foolishness tonight. Let's go.
So the point of the conversation is about when we try to. Okay, so let me say this. I do, and I'm sure that other people on this panel do speak to the younger crowd of people. The younger crowd of people have a different criteria for who they want to be with. The things that you guys fail to understand is the things that they hold value. They don't hold the same values as a 40 or 50-year-old man. Believe me, not the women, not the men, the boys. They don't have that. So the assumption being that I can offer somebody this, and this, if that ain't what I value, that ain't what I value. What if the only thing they value is diamonds? So if you don't have money to buy them diamonds, then what? That's the whole point of this. Like
It sounds like
some things have to be evaluated differently. It can't be based on a couple of things. You can have all the money in the world and you can consider yourself a high value man. But if you have no integrity, no character, no loyalty, no leadership ability, you're still not valuable to anybody other than yourself. And it could be the same with a woman. If she's, let's say she's 25, her mama never taught her how to cook, clean, iron, pay a bill, or her daddy or whoever, maintenance a car, fix a car, go grocery shopping. All you got is a pretty 25 or 30-year-old. That's all you got. So that's why I said the parameters have to be tweaked a little bit because it can't just be money. It can't just be stability. If she's a wild child, the streets own her.
well,
I don't care what a man is providing for,
well,
the streets own her.
well,
So I'm just saying.
the one thing when we
Go
look
ahead.
at this, we're talking about some of the reasons why men, when we're looking at this subject matter, are modern men in their 40s and over suitable for marriage. So this is a male-specific conversation. There was a lot of stuff put out there throughout the last couple of days that we're talking about what some of the males are thinking, what they're thinking. So for women to come on and try to tell your agenda or whatever the case is, I don't think it's effective when males are speaking it. You may not agree with it, but these are some of the things that's speaking. And it ain't just me, Willie, Herb, whatever. It's data that a lot of these men, they're saying some wild stuff that they're saying. And we ain't get into all the stuff that they were saying. So this is real. This is no, I'm talking right now. This is real. So whether how you try to sugarcoat it, like, oh, men are doing this and that. Some men feel that we ain't had the platform to talk, and they say to themselves, now it's our time. We talking. Now you're going to listen. And whether you want to hear it or not, a wise person would say, you know what? I'm not going to even dispute. I'm just going to sit back and listen and see what they got to say. Now, you may say, because I'm married, I don't have to listen to any other feedback any other man has to say. But there's a lot of single people on here or listen or on my posts on a regular basis, whatever.
And here's the answer,
that's
Dave.
y'all. That's it. That's y'all answer. So we can never get through because
heard me say that. You never heard me say that. You never even heard me address my marriage like that on here too often. The point
I just said because I knew that information, but I was talking, but I ain't get through. And of course, Brother T, there we go with these assumptions again. The end all be all answer. There we go with these assumptions again.
No, that's not my end all be all assumption. My end all be all is don't learn her but a lick. So let's go with that.
So
what's the effective conversation here?
So once again, if you're addressing the women and you want the women to listen, which is what we have done, we have listened.
When?
You listen to me. You said that this conversation was about whether 40 or 50-year-old men are viable but for marriage. So you guys are going to talk to each other and validate whether or not you're valuable for marriage, rather than listening to the women. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. When we talking things, when I say something or anybody else says something, it gets invalidated. This is a two-way street. Communication is a two-way street. I communicate with people other than my husband on a daily basis. Matter of fact, on an hourly or minutely basis, if you want to say it like that. So not being open to hear what other people say has never been me. I don't have to agree with you. I can agree to disagree just like you can with me. The point that I'm making with all this is who the hell is giving the feedback? You said this was a male conversation. Well, who the hell gonna get a feedback for the women? But the women.
Nobody.
That's exactly.
So how do you guys?
Women.
So in other words, they didn't want a female perspective on whether men in their 40s are suitable for marriage. They just wanted to sit here and debate whether they're suitable for marriage among themselves, instead of asking women, whether they are actually, or whether a woman would consider them to be suitable for marriage. Okay,
all right, hold on.
Good. So the next time I don't show up because I feel like this conversation is geared towards men, I don't want to hear nobody talking shit about the fact that I didn't show up.
That's why I didn't come last week, because it was a male conversation.
Hold on, listen. I'm gonna let y'all know. Let me nip that shit in the bud right now. Whether y'all show up or not, the show's still gonna go on. Y'all do realize that, right?
Nobody give a damn about that. We telling you.
I'm just telling you, but I don't give a damn about what you feel. I don't give a damn about what you feel.
Conversation, then it shouldn't be a problem when females don't show up. Because you sure was giving out fucking jazz before I came on here about, none of the women come on anymore because they can't take the heat. They can't be in the kitchen.
I don't think I said all that.
If I feel like a conversation is strictly for men, then there's no need for me to come up here and listen. I might as well just sit in the comments and listen to y'all talk amongst yourself. I might actually learn something. Maybe. I can't say that I learned so much.
Maybe. When you had the conversation about how men vet women, there was nothing a woman could add to that conversation.
Nothing.
Are you for real? You had a lot of shit to say. Are you serious?
What y'all have learned? No, because the whole conversation was literally about what you have learned from the role models in your friends in your life. What you have learned that showed you or taught you how to pick women. How is a woman going to give input on something that's related to what you learned? You're talking about what you've learned from other men on how to pick women, right? Because that was the basis of the conversation. Really? Nowhere in there was it ever talked about what your mother taught you about picking a woman. It was strictly about what the men in your life
said what you was the subject of the thing, how our mother taught us how to vet.
I said there was never any mention of that in the conversation.
What the hell are you talking about right now?
What you saying?
Nothing. There was nothing a woman could add to that conversation. Nothing. Because it was about how men vet women. There's
And the
nothing a
week
woman
before,
can add
see
to
this
how a
is
man
before
selects a
we
woman.
had a show on how do women pretty much decide how they pick men.
Man, right.
When
And we
was
told
that?
y'all what we were taught as far as how to get a man.
And did
Whether
we
y'all
forget-
believe
And
it
we
or
listen.
bought it or
Can we
cared
And we
dispute all
listen.
that?
or participate in
And we
it,
listen.
hey,
Yeah,
that is
And
what
we
it
listen.
is.
we listen.
And we listen. But then when we talk about, and see, that's what I was talking about with my post. When I post something, women will read my post and they take it a whole different level because it's not what they agree with. It doesn't mean when we vote in our opinion or our thoughts or how we do things, there's no right or wrong to it. You can add something to it, ask some questions, but to tell us we're wrong for the way we do things or the way we think or whatever the case, that's how we think, the type of woman we want, a younger woman, an older woman, a woman that's cooperative, a woman that's sexual, a woman that's in shape. No, please don't let me say a woman in shape. Y'all have a fit. But
I already said earlier, there's nothing wrong with
Because there's
wanting
not a lot of
something.
men
Ain't
in
nothing wrong
shape
with
that
a lot of women want
that's like
men that are in shape.
hypocritical.
They ain't guaranteed that you're gonna get it. Ain't nothing wrong with
Exactly.
wanting. Hell, people
Nobody
get
has a
what
fit
they
about
want.
that.
Ain't nothing
Nobody
wrong with
cares
that.
about that. You
Men
can definitely
men
want a woman that's in shape. There's nothing wrong with that.
hold on,
more
ladies.
comfortable in what
Ladies.
Want to get in shape.
are
Shit.
gonna get.
Hold on for a moment. All right,
Just because
I
you
want a yes.
doesn't mean you're
Hold on.
desirable.
Hold on, ladies. I want a yes or no answer. Strictly. No explanation, just a yes or no answer from the women. Do you ladies feel or think that the men that you have met that are over 40 viable for marriage? Brolic T.
Yes, I do know some.
Okay.
I do
Scorpio
know
T.
some.
I'm sorry, Scorpio T. I didn't hear your answer.
I didn't hear the question.
Of the men that you have met that are 40 years of age or older without explanation, do you think they're viable for marriage? Yes or no?
Majority of them, yes.
Anita.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. Last lady. Gwendolyn.
Yes.
Okay. We're operating from that principle. Of the men that you ladies think that are viable for marriage, we're talking about why they may opt to choose someone that's younger. We're not looking for acceptance. That's the perspective that we're speaking from.
Right.
Because you have 3 men on this panel who qualify to give that perspective. We're all over the age of 40. We're all unmarried. This is what we're talking about. So we're not looking for acceptance. We're just putting the information out there. So when we talk about the aspect of potentially dating somebody that's younger, we are trying to get away from a certain mindset that older women tend to have because of their experiences. It's not about wrong or right. It's about what you would rather deal with. Contrary to the belief, a lot of men at our age aren't necessarily looking to have kids. There may be some, but I would venture to say that men who have reached the age of 40 who haven't already had at least one, they're not looking for more. That's not to say, I'll reiterate, that some aren't. Some are actually targeting women in that 25 to 40 demographic to have a child. For them, the younger she is, the better off. That's just the perspective that we're operating from. And that's I know it's a narrow framework, but that's where we try to guide the discussion. Now, we know as this show tends to do, the conversations wobble to the right a little bit and they wobble to the left, and it always spawns something interesting in the diet, and we get more topics from those things. But that's all we're trying to put out there is why a lot of men opt to, hold on,
That's a
Scorpio.
Or what is the
responsibility.
age range that you guys are
25 to
trying?
40.
Hold on,
25
Herbert.
to 40.
35 to 40. So you
25.
don't think 25?
Yes.
So you don't think a 25-year-old would want to start a family if she doesn't want a family already?
See, and there you go. You're interjecting what she wants. We're not talking about what she wants.
We're talking about
It's
what
what
men
the
want.
But I'm talking
man
about
wants.
Herbert. I'm talking about if
So
that's
I'm
your
gonna ask this question
target.
again.
If that's your
I'm gonna ask
target
this question
market,
again.
how can that be your target market if a lot of 25-year-old women, ladies, would want to start a family at that age? How can that be your target market if you don't want
Be-
children or a family?
I'm
Because they
saying
don't
for the
have.
men that do. For the men that do.
I'm talking about the men on the panel.
For the men that do. We've already said that we're not. But we're specifically talking about the men that do. If that's
Okay, so
their hunting ground, then they go find the woman that does. Why would you deal with somebody that doesn't want what you want?
Exactly.
let me ask this question. If you guys determined for this to be a male panel, I know that it's been written before, this is an all-male panel. If y'all didn't want the women to join, why didn't you put that exclusion in there? That's number one.
Because
And then number two, Dave, why throw all that shade for the women not showing up if you didn't intend for this to be a panel with women?
I didn't throw no shit. I'm basically saying that the show is gonna go on. So if you think that is shade, that's on you. I'm just letting you know, no matter what, whether it's me,
Who asked
whether
you
it's
that?
her.
I almost called you.
You asked me a
Listen,
question, I'm answering it.
Wait, it's not about whether or not the show gonna go on. I don't care
Yes,
one
that's
way
what
or
it's
the other. If
about.
I show up, I
That's what
show
it's
up,
about,
and if I
essentially.
don't, I don't. But the point of the matter is there are certain topics in which the women can't show up. And if tonight was
I
determined to be
always
one of them, why
showed
didn't
y'all
y'all say
open
that?
invitations, send out links and everything. But you, if the subject is geared toward men, then you should give the men the ability to speak without interjecting and trying to force your agenda on that. Because when the shows
What
was geared
agenda?
toward y'all, we sat here quietly like, okay. Oh,
Actually,
collecting
y'all
data,
interjected.
collecting
Y'all had
data,
Not sit there
collecting
input.
quietly
data,
and listen
Y'all
to
had
y'all
collecting
input.
talk.
Don't
data,
tell that
We
lie.
sat quietly
collecting
and listened
data.
to
Don't tell
all
that
of
lie.
you.
Don't tell that lie.
Oh, I ain't
Don't
lying.
tell that lie.
Ain't
When
lying.
we spoke, when the
I
women
most
spoke, y'all
definitely
had just
sat
as
up here
much.
Listen, I
quietly
get
and listened to
Y'all
y'all
had just
before
as
I
much
said
put in
anything.
as we did. Don't tell that lie now. But
okay.
the point of the matter is, if you wanted this to be only a topic from which men could speak, how come you didn't say that? I came on here and told y'all I was backed up
Listen,
all day
y'all.
not feeling well. I wouldn't have got
That's
on.
not,
If
You
this was a topic about
always.
why
that's,
men,
Listen.
that was not the discussion.
Exactly.
What
You
was
said
the
you weren't feeling well.
discussion?
Rest up. Rest
that's
up.
not the point. The
What
point
was
of the
the
matter is
discussion?
now you're just now
That
saying that this was a topic that was only for men to
I
speak on.
never said it
You
was
never
only for.
No, that's
That's
not. He
it. It's
didn't
not
say
only.
only.
I never said that.
He
I
said
never
it was
said
a
that.
topic for that the men are discussing regarding the way men feel about dating women
Actually, he
under the
didn't say
age of
it.
40.
Herb said it.
So your
Herb
question
said,
should
well,
have
this
been.
is a
It should
topic
have been
that men
piggyback off of
in that
stuff that
age.
we said. It should have been
Herb
piggyback
said this
instead of
was a
voicing your
topic
own
that men
narrative.
from that age category are supposed to speak on. Which once you make that statement, then that means it excludes everybody else. So the point was, I'm saying, is if you had just said that, we wouldn't have had nothing to interject because I wouldn't be here.
But even with the interjection, we went from talking about men dating women under 25 to 40. We had to get off of the 18 to 25, which I don't know where that came from. But then we got
It was
onto
posted. It was
25 to 40.
said.
But then we got onto this whole situation about the definition of at-risk pregnancy, which had nothing to do with dating women under the age of 40, other than it was
Y'all
a
was the
discussion
one that
about
threw that
not
out
wanting,
there.
not
All we
wanting to
said
have
on
children.
that topic was
Wanting to
that
have children is
it
what was
does
said.
No,
not.
they introduced
All we
that
Wanting
lie.
to
said
have
was high risk
children.
pregnancy is not limited to women in their 30s and older. That's all we said on that
And that
Which
topic.
was a
became
response
that
to
went off into
something
a
the
whole
Yes,
men
tangent.
said.
true.
That went off into a whole
We just
tangent based
corrected a
on men
misconception,
saying
and that
that
was it.
they did not want to have a child. So
That's not what you
that's what the
said. That
discussion
was a
was.
whole nother.
The discussion was that the men did not want to have a child. With that was one of the things that they didn't want to have a child. Even though they wanted a younger woman, they did not want to have a child. it was the discussion. It was the at risk and all that other stuff came into play, and it went into a whole nother conversation. So the thing was, every time,
none of the women.
No, there's not.
Why are you still talking when he's talking?
Because she doesn't want to hear what I have to say. Because when she doesn't want to hear what I have to say, she does the same thing. There you go. Excuse me. So because I said I'm finished. So you determine when I'm finished, right?
No, I don't determine when you're finished.
Because I'm not saying what you want to hear. So now all of a sudden you said it once. So now I'm going to cut you off and be disrespectful to you because you're saying something that I don't agree with, and so I'm gonna cut you off and talk over you. So this way. But yes, that's what you're doing. So that's why maybe, like you said, maybe you should not have joined this conversation because you don't really want to hear what we have to say unless it's something that you agree with. And if you don't, then you interject and you interrupt to avoid the conversation being carried on. So now you can go ahead and take over. I'm finished.
When I came on here, I said quiet. I said nothing. I asked my question. You guys answered it. I said nothing.
And once you got going, you never stopped.
Anything. I didn't interject anything about high-risk pregnancy. That came from you guys. That's how we got on that topic. So when I was trying to interrupt you, as I've learned people panel, I do owe you an apology because you didn't do that to me. So I do apologize. With that being said, I've learned that here. However, we didn't interject that. So I don't think that I should have to sit and listen to you tell us that we're the reason why that conversation. We're not the reason for that. We didn't bring that.
So you don't think you should sit and listen to it?
That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. That's what I said. She don't want to hear it, so she's going to disrespect me and cut me off because it's something she don't want to hear. I shouldn't have to sit here and listen to this. Exactly. And that's the problem, like I said, about communication and relationships. As you get with an older woman, when it's something they don't want to hear because they're so used to being set in their ways and having things their way because they've been single for so long, 40, 50 years. So now, if it's something they don't want to hear, something they don't want to deal with, they cut you off and they talk over you and they disrespect you and try to belittle you to keep you from going any further. And then they move on to what they want to say and what they feel is their opinion.
No, that's not true. That's not always true. It's called effective communication. It's not always true.
Anita, stop reading that book for real.
No, it's what book?
All women ain't like
I'm talking about from me and my perspective. I'm going to be 45 years old. I don't want to belittle anybody, especially my man. I want to respect them, but in the same respect, I want them to respect me and have effective communication. So if I'm saying something and you ain't getting what I'm saying, I need to know that I need to reword it so you're getting what I'm saying. Like the sky is purple. No, the sky ain't purple. The sky is blue. Okay, I understand you think the sky is blue. All right, cool. So effective communication is the key to every kind of relationship. If I don't understand your style of communication, if I don't understand your style of communication, I ain't going to get it. Of course, I'm going to say what I want to say because who wouldn't? I know a person, I know the kind of person that wouldn't say what they want to say, somebody that has low self-esteem and being groomed to somebody else's expectations of what they want them to be. Willie.
So in that same instance, if your man is talking and he's trying to convey a point to you, even if you don't agree with the point, are you going to allow him to continue to make his point until he's finished, or are you going to cut him off and interrupt him and say things to throw his conversation off, to let him know that you don't agree with it and to make him feel disrespected? Would you do that?
I don't want to make my man feel disrespected. That's all part of knowing somebody and how they react to an active conversation and discussion, because a lot of men will say, I don't want to argue. A lot of women will say, it's not an argument, it's a discussion. When I start yelling at you and you start yelling at me about some stupid shit, that's an argument. So me personally, I have a lot of, because I'm going to be 45 years old, I feel great about myself. I feel great about the person I am. I feel great about the skills I have learned along the way in relationships that have made me become a potential better partner for the right person that knows how to respect me and communicate with me effectively. And if they don't know how, we can learn together.
And I'm gonna say this: I did something on this panel that I still haven't yet seen done. I did apologize, Will, because you were correct. You did not interrupt me, and I should not have interrupted you. I apologize for that. So I just want to reiterate that because I don't want it to be a situation in which anybody feels like they disrespected at my hand because I didn't have to do that. I just didn't want you to keep laying blame at us.
Thank you very much.
But I wanted to apologize today. I'm not like that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I don't have a problem with righting my wrong.
And I'm gonna answer your question. You asked if your man was talking to you, and would you let him finish his sentence before you start rebutting against it? I'm the type of female, yes, I would let you finish your sentence.
Okay, there you go.
And like, it depends on your love language too. I don't know if you guys believe in that book, but I have experienced that where my boyfriend had a total different love language than I did. And that's why we were like this. We were at odds. I want to put my man on a pedestal. I want my man to put me on a pedestal because he's special to me. I want to be respected just like I want him to, like, I want to respect him, but I need to know his needs and his wants before I can do anything. Because if you don't have that, what kind of building blocks do you have in the foundation to continue a relationship if you don't even understand what he likes and what he dislikes, what kind of love I'm a giver. I give little gifts. I'm thoughtful. I like to be romantic. My ex-boyfriend, he thought being a good partner was taking care of the maintenance of the house and the yard work. And that's all he had to do.
And
you
what
see
do we
what I'm
talk
saying?
about? And what do we talk about every time? KYP, know your personnel. So
and that's part of getting to know your personnel.
Whether you use love languages or whatever the case it is, it all boil down to knowing your personnel. It all sums it up without using all of that.
And that's part of personnel on this panel has taught us to overtalk people because if you don't, you won't get a chance. Know your personnel.
No. That emphatically wrong. Emphatically wrong. I like to try to go with a flow, whatever. Some people interject and try to put kind of voice their opinion and don't matter. So let's be real.
I'll try to run you that was always hollering about the smoke. That was you.
See, you just tie everything in. I don't even know where you at. I don't even know where you at mentally, whatever. You go to bed, Scorpio T. Good night. Good night.
You wish you could tell me to go to bed, ain't it?
Yeah, go to bed.
Anyway,
you wish you could tell
to answer Willie's question real quick. When my husband says something that I don't agree with, I let him talk. I let him get it off his chest and say whatever it is that he's feeling. And then I humbly agree to disagree and I end the conversation and I go about my business. I don't need to go back and forth to prove my point because he'll see what I'm talking about when what I say comes to fruition because that's usually how it works.
The woman's always right. I know that's right.
No, I just don't speak unless I know I'm right. And if I know I'm right about something and you refuse to listen to me, I let you go ahead and make that mistake and then come back with your hat in hand
Hold up,
and say,
Raleigh
can you
T.
help me out?
So you always right on everything you speak on.
No, I'm not
That's not what she
right.
said.
What I said is I do not speak unless I know I am right. There's a
Really?
difference. Yep.
I ain't saying
I don't
nothing.
speak unless I know I'm right.
And on the other hand,
When
if
it
I
comes
know
to
I'm
my
wrong, I
marriage,
will
when it comes
apologize
to
and
my
say I'm
marriage,
wrong.
if I know that something he's about to do is not going to go the way that he foresees it, I'll say something. And if he chooses to ignore me and do what he want to do, okay, I'll let him make that mistake. Because shit, sometimes you got to let a person fall on their face before they get it. Sometimes you got to let them make that mistake. One thing I'm never going to try and do is change you. But I will let you learn from your mistake, and then you can change yourself. I'm not in it to save you. You can't save a person from themselves. But I ain't going to let you drag me down with you either.
Go ahead, Gwendolyn.
Yep, because you got to let a grown person be a grown person. You can't control a grown person. You can't tell them what to do, how to act, how to feel. You got to hope that they know what to do. You know?
I think, yeah, this kind of goes back to the leadership thing. When we let you lead and then you make a mistake, you got to be able to own up to that.
If you can
And
lead,
It's just that simple.
In
I
order
let
to
my
lead, you have
husband
to have
lead.
followers. If you're not
I
willing to follow,
let my
nobody
husband
can
lead
lead.
all the time. I let my husband lead all the time. If the route he goes puts it in a situation that's not that great, then it's up to him to fix that. If he consults me after I've already said maybe you shouldn't do that, because I'll never say you shouldn't do that. I'll make a suggestion of something else he probably should try instead of that. If he chooses to do what his first mind says, okay, let's roll with that. Let's see how this works. So when he comes
And
back and
that's
say,
why
babe,
I
I'm sorry, I
said
probably should have listened to you. Hey, no harm, no foul. Ain't no love lost. Now what are you gonna do? You gonna follow my
but that's
advice or
why I say
you gonna do something else?
that
Like,
definitely brings questions about leadership. If you drop that ball, because you're leading, if you drop that ball, she's going to have questions after that. It's going to become a problem after that if it's not ironed out
and
properly,
that's
and if
what
he can't fix his problem. If he
and,
can't fix what has caused by his decision, then of course that's going to bring questions.
and that's something that I feel like a lot of men are on this. Why can't men be the leader? Why can't men be the leader? A lot of women let men lead.
Not every man is built for leadership. So we
Exactly.
understand that.
Thank
Not
you,
every man
David.
is built for
Thank
leadership,
you,
whatever.
David.
And you only
Thank
can
you,
have
David.
you can
Because
only
not
lead
every
if you
man
have
is
people
built
to
for
follow you.
leadership.
If you only can lead if you have people to follow you, and that's the bottom line.
You gotta learn
Well,
to be
if
a
she
And you
wants
can't
follower
have, and you
in
Not
can't
order
every
to be a
man is
leader.
built for leadership. And there are situations
can't
where
have
women will
doubters
follow a
following
man
you
who's
either.
not built for leadership. And that's just the name
You
of the
can't.
game. And then they're like, well, I'm never going to follow a man again. But you got to look at the situation that you followed somebody who wasn't meant to be a leader. Now she meets somebody who probably has that leadership quality. But like they say, once bitten, twice shy. Everybody ain't going to run for that. I'm going to follow him to the ends of the earth for back. Hell no, I followed him to the ends of the earth and now I'm broken penniless. What the fuck I want to do that again for?
Thank you.
I'm
It,
just
it,
saying.
let me say this.
I
Let me
gotta look
say
at it
this.
from the
In the
standpoint of
same
a woman
place at the
sometimes.
same
That
time
shit is easier
10
said than
years
done.
ago.
Everybody ain't gonna be gung-ho to get on that oh, I'm gonna follow him
Let,
wherever he
Gotta
goes.
make
let me
moves.
say this. Let me say this.
That,
Any man, whatever, of course, you ultimately want to be a leader, but real leaders know that they have to seek advice from others to get where they're going. So
Oh yeah, got
so
network.
it's not like, oh, I say this, you need to follow. If a woman has, like I said, interdependence, if their strength is in certain areas, then you know, like, oh, they're gonna take the lead on this, whatever, and I'm gonna follow whatever because they're better in finances or they're better in this, they're better. We're talking about redecorating our house, our home, and that's better, that's more suitable for their interests. I'm going to let them take the lead. Leaders know how to fall back and let other people
Leaders
take the
know how to
lead, whatever.
delegate, in other
Yeah,
words.
and so that's the
this
bottom
is
line.
why I
So I think
Teamwork.
people
this is
get
why I
confused
said
with that word
It's called
leadership.
teamwork.
It's not a
this is
dictatorship.
why I,
Leadership
Teamwork.
is different from dictatorship.
this is
Teamwork.
why I said this is why I made that statement, because I've heard it, I've seen it, I've heard people say it, and I've read it. It probably in the council's corner and
You
probably
heard,
other groups too.
I know what you're talking about with people saying it,
Can I
but
finish?
that doesn't
Please.
mean it's coming from us. Whatever the people
Can I
understand.
finish?
No, I
though?
see a lot of stuff
Can I
going on.
finish? though?
Man,
Okay.
what they say, woman's supposed to follow the man, and the man's supposed to
And
lead.
that's just those specific
Bow
individuals
down.
saying that.
When
I
he
don't.
said, when you have men who say that he has the final answer, no matter what, it's his
That's dumb.
decision.
What man
So
is
just
that?
let me.
What man is that?
That's a dictatorship. There are a lot of men in the council's
Yeah,
corner
Can
who say that shit.
Okay,
A
so
lot of them.
should I be condemned for that's me and my platform, and you got
If
other
you
people
hadn't been
coming in?
quiet, I would
Nobody's
have been able to
condemning
give
you.
you
I'm just saying.
accolades.
Y'all wonder
I
where
was
we get this
actually
shit
trying to
from.
tap
We
you on
read it
your
all the
back.
time in council's corner. I'm just saying.
I'm aware of everything that's said and what people say. I sit back and say, interesting.
I know.
That's their opinion.
Exactly.
So the point that
I just be like, wow.
the point that I was making with that is when I said I've seen it said and I've seen it everywhere. I've heard people say that. So when ultimately, if the decision lies with him, he drops the ball, you have to expect that there's going to be questions. There's going to be blowback. There's going to be a problem, especially if he can't fix it and it drags her to a place she don't want to go. Everyone should know that, yes, you got to have followers. But if you're not a good leader and you don't consider your followers, see, Dave, you said something different than what we've been seeing. We've seen where men have, oh, it's his decision. Okay, so you asking her to follow you and be her God, so to speak. No question. Let me make the decision. You're saying something a little different. And you said that before. Hey, if she good at it, I'll follow her. I saw you say on one of them where, hell, if she got a good job, 40,000 plus, I'll go where she go if I can get a job. The point that I was making with that, because there is a listening audience, as you stated, that when you are the person that wants to be the leader and you don't want to consider your people and the decision and the finalness is yours, understand what's going to come with that. I don't care how old somebody are. You can get that from your kids if your kids don't think you're leading well. So if children can get there, why would y'all not expect for women to be able to get there? If you get a lead to your wife and you say to her, hey, your job is to make sure all the bills are paid on time, and you find out things ain't been paid in 6 months and everything is up for deletion, getting cut off, you're on the verge of losing your home or whatever, you're going to have a problem. And because you allowed her to lead, that brings in questions. That's all
fair
I'm
enough,
saying.
and that's fair enough, and it's nothing wrong with that. And you made a good point. Kids can pick up too. If you talking all this, and they saying, "Damn, you saying all this, Dad," but you ain't doing it. Eventually, when they get older, they gonna call you to the carpet, like, "Man, whatever. This dude just be talking." But if you show by your actions, they'll say, "Yeah, he right." Like whatever you usually say, he's legit. He's right. That's the bottom line in leadership. Whatever. I mean, not every circumstance working your way, but if people know your heart is in the right place and you're genuine and you try to lead by example, that's a whole different story. Some people just want to take that role just to take it. I'm the man. I do this and that. Nah, dude, it don't work like that. Whatever, you got to show some action. Whatever. That's been my whole point throughout this whole discussion. So whatever some of them guys put in the counselor's corner, that's their opinion. That's why it's the counselor's corner. You can come in there and say what you want. That don't mean it's agreeable. Whatever. I just sit back and listen, watch and read.
Exactly. I read it, I listen. Most of the time, I don't comment. It's like, okay, that's your opinion. That's how you feel. Fine, that's how you feel. Shit, ain't no skin on my
We
back.
can see your lips moving, but we cannot hear you,
We be
sister.
having full whole what would you say, storybooks about certain ones. You know, it'd be interesting because I just can't believe the mindset of many people
but
that
but
be
you
on here.
but you know what? But you know what? All it does is say to us everybody has a different perspective based on the way that they grew up, where they see things. So sometimes you just have to say, that's interesting, whatever.
It is.
They grew up differently than mine. That don't mean that they're on. That's what maybe all they know. That's what all they know, and they're bringing it to those particular scenarios, whatever.
Yep.
So all it could do is make you wiser. And trust me, when I first came out with this notion, I was in groups, whatever. It might have been predominantly. I don't even know what some of these groups I joined, but they thought everything I was saying was so foreign, so foreign. But then it was certain people who would inbox me and like, you know what? I would get kicked out of many groups, and they would come back. Certain people from those groups would say, you know what? I wish they didn't kick you out because I'm learning different things from how you think. I never viewed things like that because they live in their own bubble. What I'm trying to say is it's a whole world out there, and people think differently, and the only thing that could do is make you wiser to how other people think.
let, me,
The way we think is the end all be all.
let me tell
Other
you
people
this.
think differently.
Let me tell you this. I was raised in a predominantly white area when I was a young age, and I moved into the east side, and it was something totally different. And you know, it's just so different how you could run into different classes of people that's opposite. Just like poor white people, poor black people, middle class people, and they all different. They all live different. They all got different ways. Their families are different. I mean, the way they are around their kids. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, I've seen some things, and it just baffles me because I always thought that life was life, and but when you get out there and you see everybody isn't taught things that they need to know, how life goes and things that you're supposed to accomplish, and they're just clueless. They're just sent out into the world with nothing. They don't even got guidance. They go in foster home to foster home, or family member to family member, and they're not even teaching them anything, teaching them about their heritage, their roots. We go down south as much. I mean, we know all our family. We're all over the United States, and every 2 years we meet up. And man, it's sad the way society is. It is.
When I'm talking on this panel, unless I specifically say you, or you, or call you out by name, I'm not addressing anybody personally. I'm speaking to audience like you are, and I'm addressing a mindset. If I speak after somebody says something, it's for clarification purposes because I want you to understand just like I want to understand, which is why I ask questions. I don't have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with me. And I'm okay with that. But the point of a discussion is to have it. So if we're here and somebody, see what happens is that let's say when I say something, people say there are people who will perceive it be right or wrong. I'm having an argument with you. No, I'm having a discussion. An argument from me is personal. So if I'm not addressing you and saying these personal things about you, I'm not arguing with you. I'm having a discussion. There's a difference because there's a difference in communication style. So that's all I'm saying. When you say this may not be your mindset, some things may not be my mindset, but I'm addressing them. Just like when you have something to say, you address it. That's all.
Well, it's getting that time. We didn't hit about the 2 hour and 40 mark, whatever. And I know Christine said So about those 40-year-old men, because some people wanted to hear specifically about what these 40-year-old men have to say. Now,
Thank you.
what I could say,
Right here.
to that
I'm
is,
40.
yeah, what I could say to that is, Christine,
Really?
what I could say
No,
to
I'm
that,
serious. Are you?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
so what I could say to that, Christine, is you know that it's gonna come back around. You know it's gonna come back around. Like I said, all these concepts and conversations build upon each other. We'll be a fool to think like, okay, that's the end of it. It's done. This conversation is done. It's gonna come back around. For those, because I know some people may have tuned in and said, I want to hear what these 40-year-old heads got to say about that. I apologize. We didn't get to that like that. You know me, we can run it back. We could do whatever, but we gonna tackle it. It ain't over with yet. But we gonna get ready to shut it down because tomorrow is my last day of school. Well, not my last day. I'm 12 months, but it's the kid's last day, a half a day. So, and remember, I kept informing y'all that I wanted smoke. Yeah, I've been getting smoke lately. Oh, these little 6th grade knucklehead boys been cutting the food the last few days of school, and which is shocking because usually, I know y'all want to hear that. Usually, it's the girls that be cutting up. Usually, but the boys been cutting up. But it's all good. We're gonna get some closing comments, and for those of you who still want to finish this conversation, inbox me and tell me, or inbox Herb, hell, inbox Willie, or whatever the case is, and say, hey, I want y'all to focus on this next time, because I know some people want to hear what me and got to say about certain subject matters, because they're not getting that conversation from elsewhere. So sometimes they want to hear from other people. So just do what we got to do. So closing comments.
You know mine. Growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
No, Herb, I ain't letting you off the hook with that shit this time, whatever. Come on, it's got a lot of stuff there. No, sir. No, sir. You got to come better. You got to come with something related to this subject matter, man. I'm not letting you. That's not the end all be all place. No, sir.
40-year-old men. We are in the prime of our lives. We are positioned to do things. The question is, do you want to oppose us or do you want to stand with us? One way you win, the other way you lose. Choose wisely.
All right, I can take that better. I can take that than that standard one. Christine said, I think communication is another good topic. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That is. And that might be the one for Monday.
Do it on a Monday so I can come.
All right. That's fine. Anyway, who's next?
Effective
Next.
communication
Come on, ladies.
is
I'll let
the
the ladies
key.
go.
Effective communication is the key to any kind of relationship, whether it be friendship or anything. That's all I got.
Okay. Who's next?
Another lady.
You can have a beautiful relationship no matter what the age, as long as there's honesty, respect, and goodness.
Okay.
I'll go. For me, I want to thank you guys again for inviting me. I love coming to the show, and you're the only show that I ever done that's 2 hours and 43 minutes. So that's something right there. That tells you how much I enjoyed it, because I'm normally in the bed. I got to get up and work the election tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So
yes, sir.
I have to be at the election board at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow's vote. So go vote. So as far as tonight, I just want to really say that like people said earlier, and I've been saying all night, if you don't communicate with the person and find out what their goals are, who, where, what, and why, who are they, where are they trying to go, what is it going to take for y'all to work together, and why do y'all want to be together, none of this is going to be possible. There's always going to be a divide, and that's one of the problems, is that people don't communicate. They don't try to understand who the person is, where they're trying to go. Once they see a little bit that they like, they latch onto them, and they try to overlook a lot of things that end up coming later to bite them.
Yeah.
So those four W's, understanding who that person is you're with, where they're trying to go, what are you trying to do together, or what can you do together, and then why do you think y'all should be together, or why are we trying to be together? Have those discussions, because eventually they're going to come out why you got together or why you shouldn't be together. So get it out the way in the beginning as you get to grow and understand each other, and you won't waste time with a lot of people that find out later that's not for you. So that's my closing.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And you always welcome, so you don't have to be appreciative. You one of us now, man. So stop. Probably to your Scorpio T.
Don't nothing hurt but a lick.
All right. Oh, hell no. Like I said to her, that ain't
How'd you get away with that?
No,
Come on, get up off it. Get up off.
If you're going to use that, if you're going to do that, you have to tie it in with this subject matter.
That's right.
I mean, I did tie it in with the subject matter. Don't nothing hurt but a lick. So when people make little sidebar comments trying to be insulting, that shit don't hurt. What hurts is when you hit a motherfucker. So don't nothing hurt but a lick. Meaning I ain't never gonna take none of this shit that people say up here personal. Does that tie in for you better now?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Full combat, she
If I was
said.
a language arts teacher, whatever, you would get a better grade than to explain with more detail. Yeah. Exactly.
Combat's what she said. Bring it.
Exactly.
Scorpio T.
Line is simple as always. If ain't no self-speak truth, own that. Everybody don't have the same truth. It's okay to own your truth. It is okay. It is okay to own what it is that you want or don't want. That is absolutely okay. Nobody is knocking you for wanting what you want. But understand that the other person has wants too. That's one of those overlooked things. But to thine own self be true. What Anita said is absolutely correct. Effective communication is an art, and it's not something that comes just naturally. That's something that's handed down. Being able to listen and understand. I might not agree, and you might not agree with me, but own that mess. Own it.
All right. And for me, I keep saying the thing about everybody in their really 40s. If y'all recall, the subject matter said 40s and over. So it wasn't no standard that it had to be just 40-year-old men. It was 40 and older, over. So 50, 60, or whatever the case is. But for me, all that effective communication is always going to be the key. It's always going to be the key. A lot of times people like to talk, but no one likes to listen. Remember, listening is a big part of communication. If somebody talking and they don't got nobody to listen to, then hell, what's the point of talking? So we have to understand both ends of communication. And we already know with communication, it's the 55-38-7 rule. The body language, the tone, and just actual words spoken. So 55% of it is the non-direct. 38% of it is like the tone of the message and all that. And 7% of it is just actually the words that's actually spoken. So when we think about effective communication, we have to think about all those levels. And again, I know we came in with the subject matter, we had questions, but sometimes conversations just get get, are driven toward one way. And like I said, I know, Herb know, and I'm sure most of y'all, the panel members know that we're going to cross this bridge again. So stay tuned for the posts throughout the week in the Counselor's Corner. I'm always sharing some of Willie posts, Herb drop posts, whatever. Continue dropping information in the Counselor's Corner, and people are tackling. It started off small. It's getting bigger and bigger. We got more people joining and conversating more than ever before. Some of these people are like, who the hell is this? But they're active, and they're participating, and they're giving their perspective. And that's all we can ask for, learning from different people and from their different backgrounds, because none of us have all the answers as much as we think we do. And with that said, we out. Till next time. We'll have our broadcast on Thursdays. It's never lit like Monday nights, but
Mondays, Still
have it Thursday. And that's usually out of my book, Cocktail Conversations, which usually situations, dysfunctional, problematic scenarios that we like to discuss. So that's on Thursday. So we're gonna tackle that. Other than that, we out. I appreciate you all for joining. Appreciate y'all staying up with us to listen to it, and for everybody who made comments in the thread. We out. Everybody rest well tonight, and see you again on Thursday.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.
See y'all Monday.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.